Is it morally wrong for me to check into my own stream? What does it say about me? What will the others think? I don't really care. 32 times, 27 times. That's a lot of streams. That adds up pretty fast. I've only been doing this for a year. So, let me go ahead and pull up Trails. Sky. The voice chapter. The voice chapter. Stop the music. We'll need it later. There we go. Now, I had meant to stream last night, but I was not home, so I will stream tonight instead. Ah, yes. That's right. Olivier got knocked the fuck out by Estelle last night. Or last time, rather. So, this marks the beginning of the... I guess you could call it a tournament saga? You know, like fucking Dragon Ball? Oh, there's actually an item here I missed. We're definitely not going to see the end of the tournament tonight. What we are going to see is an influx of side missions. What's this item? Droplet of Life. Max HP 20. Okay, and a Estelle droplet. Okay. I also would have started 40 minutes ago, however, my microphone decided to not give any input at all to any programs, which I think was due to my PS4 controller being plugged in. Or rather, re-plugging it in just fucked everything up. Pirate Tuck. Halt! This is the embassy of the Calvard Republic. What business do you have here? We're looking for someone who's staying here, a man named Zin. We're very sorry to trouble you, but could you pass the message along to him? Oh, you're here to see Zin. The first time I saw that guy, I very nearly wet myself. I was like, what's a bear doing in the middle of the world capital? Yeah, Zin isn't exactly petite. He's actually a really friendly guy once you get talking to him. He even gave me some steamed buns when I was starving before my shift. Yep, he's like a big, dependable older brother. Ahem. So, could you help us get in touch with him? Oh, right, about that. Zin came back earlier, but he went out again. Seems like he's looking for a place to train before the main tournament. I forgot that, I need to find the, newspaper. A place to train, he's got some serious dedication. Did he mention a specific place he was headed to? He said something about going to the Irby scenic route on the edge of town. It's kind of like a park in the forest. I guess it's perfect for training because it's nice and quiet. Irby scenic route. Guess we should head over there then. Bowie shit. You gotta talk to him ASAP. If you're headed there, there's something you should know. Deeper in the forest, there's a building called the Irby Royal Villa. Oh yeah, we heard about that just before. The army sealed it off as a kind of counter-terrorism base, right? Oh, so you already know. Yeah, the folks stationed there can be pretty harsh, so be careful. Best stay away if you can. Harsh, huh? I hate to get on their radar, so we'll try to stay away. Thanks for the warning. So I imagine we're gonna have probably at least 3 more streams on this game, which is gonna be about a week, because I like to stream about 3 times a week. So 3 more streams, and then we'll be done with this game. And then we'll have to wait for the sequel in September. I mean, I could play through the old Trails 2nd chapter again.
I heard the tournament's getting a lot of attention.
But at the same time, I want to know what it felt like when the original game released and you had to wait then for the sequel. Hello, Zarksik. You're just in time. This church. There's like there's an item back here. Because it's my understanding, the old and the old game were also pissed when they had to wait for the second game to come out. More anime, yes. More and more anime. more anime game.
Royal guards?
Okay, I don't. Oh, the newspaper station right there, but it's still
Which one
here.
should I pick?
No, you do not. Okay.
Come back anytime.
More anime.
There's the royal guards?
Now, I actually have a few other Falcon games that I've not played yet. Some of which are later in the Trails, or sorry, yeah, the Trails series. But it wouldn't make sense for me to skip from the first game to the 11th game on stream. So I'll follow along with the remakes as they come along. But I also have Trails to Nayuta, or Trails of Nayuta, I think, which is not a mainline Trails game. It's a spin-off of sorts. That allegedly has nothing to do with the Trails series despite having Trails in the name. Well, if you ask the director of Falcom, Kondo, Mr. Kondo-san, if you were to ask him when he's asked whether that game has anything to do with the series, he always gives a very vague answer. Mostly to just piss everybody off. But I might start that afterwards, after we finish with this game. Because what that means is that at any given moment, that game will be relevant. Whenever he damn well feels like it. They should be mad. They're very mad. Okay, there has to be like a general store somewhere. No, that's the Oral Factory. I guess there is no general store here. Fisherman's Guild, regular guild.
The tournament's getting a lot of attention.
I also have their other series, Tokyo Xanadu. That's a wrong bomb. Which is an action series. It's an action anime game set in Tokyo. I don't know what the premise is, I just know it's an action game set in Tokyo. But since it's set in Tokyo, I still have no reason not to play it. Okay, I don't know where this general store is, so we're just gonna ignore that for now. And do this. So, teleport here.
Let's go!
Tokyo. It's hard to think. I've been streaming for almost a year now. This month will actually mark 1 year on the 23rd. The 23rd of January, I think. I'd have to look at my Steam list, because I'm pretty sure the first game I really streamed, using this setup and all that, I didn't look that good at the time, was Tyrant's Realm, which is a indie Souls-like. I'd have to look, though. This is the Irby Scenic Route. It's near there's a stone path in the middle of a forest. It was built a long time ago as a place for the people of the capital to relax. It's probably been here for a couple hundred years. Kind of thing you'd expect on the Queen's doorstep. But I'm getting a strong whiff of monsters in the air. Sharp as ever. I'd say there are probably even more dangerous monsters here than what we've seen on the roads before. We best keep our wits about us so we look for Zid. So I actually missed a path here, but that might be cut off from, was it roadblocks? Yep, roadblocks, okay.
They look tough.
I also
but
missed
we're
another path
tougher.
down here, but I think that's where the villa is.
Watch for ranged attacks.
Try and find Zin here.
Ready and
Did not mean to do that. I'm deal with this. Okay. I think I'll get issue 8 later, if it's not showing up now. Materials, perfect. Uh-oh. Is that a woman screaming? came from further in. Let's go. Jeez.
Help! Somebody please help me!
Attacking the nun.
What?
Sister, you're safe now. It's dangerous. Please stay back. These... Jeez. Oh, these things are... these things are very weak.
You're mine.
Gotcha!
Oh, that's two dead.
Have mercy.
Okay, and it's sorry
Let's
for this
finish
one
this
off.
quick, Scout.
Right.
Easy.
Won't lay a finger on.
Got like no XP for that. Phew, that was tougher than I expected. No, it wasn't. Sister, are you alright?
Yes. All thanks to you. Who exactly are you two?
We're with the Bracer Guild. We were searching for someone when we heard you scream.
I see. So that's what... Huh.
Are you okay? You seem kind of dazed. Are you hurt or something?
No. Thanks to you, I'm unharmed. I serve at the cathedral in the capital. My name is Sister Ellen. Thank you so much for helping me.
No need to thank us. It's surprising to see a nun all the way out here alone, though. Were you with someone?
No, I'm here by myself. We actually ran out of some herbs at the cathedral. They were sold out in stores, too. So I decided to gather some myself.
That's so dangerous. There are monsters everywhere.
Yes. Normally there aren't this many monsters around. But it seems like their numbers have suddenly increased.
More bees? More bees. What's with these guys? Sounds like they heard the commotion and decided to gather here. Facing this many at once could be trouble. Yeah, we may have to focus on getting Sister Ellen to safety.
Hey, looks like you lot are in a bit of trouble.
Here he comes. Zin! Thank goodness you saw us.
Hey, it's you two. Let's save the catching up for later and take care of these guys first.
Yeah, understood. It should be easy.
I'll distract them, so do what you need to do.
You're so reliable, Zin.
I'll finish you all. Thank you. Right here.
Disten, that's the buff that made him busted in the original. Double strength, double defense. Alright, so. Taunt.
Come on, over here. Spread you like a book.
My turn.
Alright, so.
Take them all.
Hit the morale and see if Joshua can wipe him out.
Joshua, do it.
Farewell.
And there you go. Damn, that critical. Nice.
That was quite a workout. Didn't expect to run into you two here. I thought you were working over in Zeiss.
Yeah, I guess it hasn't been that long since we were there. That's the last time we gave her. Actually, we transferred from the Zeiss branch to the Gransel branch.
Oh, I see. So, you managed to wrap up that kidnapping case, huh? How's the redhead who got poisoned? He all right?
Yep, he's back to his usual self.
Sorry about that. Oh.
Oh?
Hey, she's quite a looker, eh?
Oh, that's what he meant by oh.
She with you two?
No, we just met her. Seriously, could you be more obvious? Should I report this to Kilika?
Hey, I was just stating an objective fact. And why'd you have to bring up Kilika?
Thank you so much for saving me from danger. I owe you all my life.
Oh, please. No need to thank me. As a man who walks the warrior's path, I'm merely doing what I was born to do.
Oh my.
And she likes it. She's receptive. Why is he trying to act all cool? Didn't sound so good with the ladies, huh? There's something about it that feels very zen. What are you people doing here? Uh-oh. Wait, what? Very suspicious behavior out here scheming on a deserted spot. I don't suppose you're terrorists, aren't you? I like that. I like that their way of finding out if someone's a terrorist is just ask them. Legally, they can't say no, you know? Hey, what are you calling terrorists? You're the ones who... We're with the Bracer Guild, Gransel Branch. We are protecting this woman who was attacked by monsters. What? Bracers, you say?
What they say is true. I came to gather herbs, but then I was attacked by monsters.
For the record, I'm also a bracer. I believe I crossed paths with some of your comrades during the preliminaries.
Nutty. A martial artist from Calvert, huh? You're that guy who fought all alone. At least our identities seem legitimate. We'll just give you a warning this time. But the Irby Royal Villa is nearby, so don't go wandering around without a good reason. Why is there two of you? Why is there these two poser survivors? Where's their captain, the cool survivor? That's you, sister. We'll escort you back to the royal capital ourselves. There's no need for you to rely on mere bracers.
But I...
Are you kidding me? You guys have been super snooty this entire time. Do you even hear yourselves? Still, just let it go. But be more careful moving forward. Thank you for letting it slide this time. Very well. Remember your place. You're just civilians when all's said and done. Now then, sister, let's go.
All right. Thank you all so much.
What the? Who do those guys think they are?
They're part of the Special Ops unit from the Intelligence Division. They seem capable enough, but they sure look nasty, don't they?
Not just nasty, they're downright awful. Wait a minute. How do you know them, Zin?
Ah, they competed in the preliminaries of the Royal Tournament. That's how they were introduced.
Those guys are in a tournament? So the ones working in the shadows are now showing themselves openly. Guess that means they don't need to stay hidden anymore.
Well, before they make up an excuse, we should head back to the city. By the way, what are you two doing all the way out here?
Oh, right. The truth is, we were actually looking for you, Zin.
Huh? For me?
Yes, we have a favor to ask. It's about the Royal Tournament.
I see. So that's how it is, huh? Let me ask you something. Why do you want to enter the tournament?
Well, watching the preliminaries really got me fired up. I really just want the chance to go all out against some tough opponents.
We've been traveling across the kingdom as part of our bracer journey. We thought this would be a great way to put what we've learned to the test.
All right, let's team up. If we register before the tournament starts tomorrow, we'll be good to go.
All right. Wait, are you sure you don't want to think about it more?
I've already seen what you two can do in combat. I think you're more than capable of helping me out.
Thanks, Zin. I'll give it my absolute best.
We're looking forward to being your teammate.
Same here. I had originally planned to see how far I could go on my own. But now that I've got backup, I've got no choice but to aim for the top.
Heck yeah! We're in it to win it!
Still, it'll be tough with just 3 of us. The team battle format allows for up to 4 members.
Ah, right. We're still 1 person short. But hey, I bet if we give it our all, we'll be able to push through.
No. If we're aiming for the top, we need to be fully prepared. A fight starts long before you land the first blow.
Yeah, you're probably right. If only Cheryl were here, that'd make things so much easier. Hey, what if we asked Elnan to contact the Roland branch for us?
Shara's probably really busy right now. With both Dad and us gone, the Roland branch is probably understaffed.
Right. Oh, isn't there anyone out there who can help us?
Ah, that's my cue.
That is Mad Mercer's cue.
Ugh! There he is, our ridiculous resident minstrel. Were you hiding out on the second floor?
Were you listening this entire time?
Indeed. I heard it all, every word. I knew the time had come to make my grand entrance.
Hey, wait a minute. Who said you could sit down?
He's the pianist, right? Is he a friend of yours?
I wouldn't call him a friend. More like a bad cool we can't shake.
Come on, Estelle.
Even though it hasn't been that long since we first met.
I am Olivier Lenheim, a traveling musician from Erebonia. I got to know them during a certain incident we were involved in together. Since then, we've shared a rather special bond.
Phrasing! Don't give him the wrong idea.
Not sure I follow, but I'll also introduce myself. I'm Zin Vathek, a bracer from Calvard and a student of martial arts. I've enjoyed your piano performances quite a bit. Oh, you honor me with your praise. I too have heard of your exploits in the preliminaries. They say you took on 4 opponents by yourself, and won spectacularly.
Hey, you beat their ass.
I just had a bit of good luck getting pitted against those amateurs. So, Mr. Musician, what exactly do you want from us?
Hold on a sec!
Olivier, I have one question. Have you had a lot of free time on your hands recently?
A sharp question, as expected from you, Joshua. 'Tis been over a month since I arrived in the capital. I've done all the sightseeing, and the only thing left is Gransel Castle. But those glum soldiers won't let me in. I considered visiting other regions, but since the Queen's birthday is coming up, it seemed like a shame to leave now.
So basically you're bored.
Exactly. And I just happened to overhear you're 1 person short for the tournament. To top it off, the winner gets an invitation to a luxurious banquet. I see this is nothing short of divine intervention.
Ugh.
I had a feeling it was something like that.
So, what do you say? How about letting me join your little team?
Do it. Say
I don't
yes.
see why not.
Yes.
Oh, wait a second, Zin. Don't you want to think about this more? I mean, you don't even know his fighting style.
He uses an orbital gun, right? That adds tactical variety, so I think he'd make a fine addition to our team.
What?
Well, well. Color me impressed. So you spotted the gun under my arms? Or was it the way I walk? And the way you move your eyes. Hand-to-hand fighters track their opponents in a straight line. But you, on the other hand, observe your targets point by point. You've got a sniper's gaze.
Whoa, guy's a total pro.
I see. That makes perfect sense.
That sounds like something Solid Snake would say.
I'll be more mindful of that in the future.
Not even Solid Snake. Fucking, Naked Snake.
Well then, do your eyes
Big
tell
boss.
you I'll be able to join your team? Yeah, I'll be counting on you.
I still got a bad feeling about this.
We look forward to working with you again, Olivier.
Mm-hmm. Nighttime. I'm so full I'm gonna explode. I can't believe they're still eating and drinking after all that. I just can't keep up. Well, as soon as the build for it, I'm more surprised by how much Olivier can eat. Well, I guess it should be fine as long as it doesn't impact tomorrow's match. Yeah, you're right. No point in worrying about them. Anyway, shall we head over to the Hotel North Block? Ellen City made us a reservation. Does auto? Oh, it does auto. Okay. Fritz. Good evening. Welcome to Hotel Roenbaum. Are you checking in? Yes, we're with the Bracer Guild. We were told that a room was reserved for us. Would you mind confirming? Ah, so that request was for you two. Yes, we have your reservation confirmed. That's a relief. Yeah, we really owe Elnan for this. Mrs. Stell and Mr. Joshua, correct? May I currently ask to see your Bracer notebooks? Ah, just a moment. They both showed their Bracer notebooks to the front desk clerk. Everything appears to be in order. Here's your key. Room 202 key. Please take the stairs up to the second floor. Your room is on the right. If you need anything, please don't hesitate to contact the front desk. Okay, I'm gonna run back outside. I'm not gonna run back outside. I'm not allowed to explore. What does he sell?
Will you be resting here?
Oh, this is the... okay.
This feels great.
But I gives a limit break gauge.
Take
Very
care.
nice. Gonna do it one more time
you be
because I can
resting
max
here?
out Joshua. Joshua's CP.
This feels great.
Here we go.
Take care.
I hope you enjoy your...
Nothing hidden. Okay. Our bedroom.
Room 202. Yep, this is us. Wow, this room is so nice. Hey, look! We've even got a night view of the Grand Arena.
Whoa, you're right. This room feels too nice for us to be staying in for free. I guess this will be our base of operations until the tournament ends.
You probably won't see the end of the tournament tonight. We will absolutely see it the next time, though.
So that means Joshua and I will be staying here together for a while.
Yeah, you and your stepbro, Estelle.
Whoa, wait, what am I even thinking?
Hey, Estelle,
Yes?
I know this is sudden and weird, but we're family, right?
Oh no. It starts.
Uh-huh.
I might not be as reliable as Dad, and I'm not as good a listener as Shara, but even so, I want to be there for you. So if there's ever anything on your mind, I want you to know I'll listen. It's just that you've been acting different lately. Yeah, sorry. Maybe I'm overthinking things.
Sometimes you're just so you, Joshua. You're so sharp, but somehow you still miss the mark.
Huh?
Thanks, Joshua, but please, don't worry about me. Yeah, maybe I have been acting a little odd lately, but it's nothing serious. I'm not in distress or anything like that. I need some time to sort out my feelings, that's all. So, I'll be okay. Just you being here is enough for me.
I see. All right, I'll try not to worry too much. Once you do figure things out, I hope you'll share them with me. But you know, no pressure or anything.
Well, yeah.
No pressure.
Once I figure things out, I probably will have something to tell you.
Huh?
Oh, Joshua.
Nope, nothing. It's still a little bit early, but why don't we call it a night? I'm pretty wiped out after today.
Yeah, that sounds good to me. We've got the tournament tomorrow, too. We should organize our things and get some rest.
What time is it? Okay, I'm gonna try to go to about midnight. This has been one of my goals to start a little earlier and end a little earlier. So what that means, I imagine most of the stream is going to be dedicated to side missions. Yo, morning. Morning, Zid. Sorry to keep you waiting. Thanks for coming to meet us. It's no problem. I wanted to prepare a few things before the match anyway. Let's stop by the Orbital Factory, weapon shop, and the department store. Not gearing up. Right, better safe than sorry. By the way, where's Olivier? Is he not here yet? Morning, my lovelies. What a glorious morning for our glorious debut on the battlefield. You always show up at just the right moment, don't you? Good morning, Olivier. Morning. Looks like we're all here now. Shall we head out? The tournament starts at noon, right? It's still pretty early. What should we do until then? Like I said, it's probably a good idea to pick up any equipment we're missing now, which I did last time. We'll go over it again. I also wouldn't mind taking on a few monsters along the road to warm up. Ah, I see. Yes, I could do with a bit of warm-up myself. Agreed. It couldn't hurt to get a feel for how we work together as a team. This will be our first time fighting together after all. It's settled then. Let's go. Once they're ready, we can head to the Grand Arena.
By the by, Estelle, did you sleep well last night?
What did he mean by that? What do you mean by that?
That's supposed to.
I was simply concerned that today's match might have shaken your nerves, dear.
Want me to punch you?
What are they talking about?
Joshua, you're supposed to be the smart one in the group. Okay, so there's definitely something here. Okay. I do need to go over Olivier and Zin's gear. Ah, Kurt. Good morning, everyone. Good morning, Eldon. Oh, Kurt, you're here too. Yeah, I came by to pick up today's requests. Good to see you pulled a team together, Zin. Yep, thanks for thinking of me. By the way, what's on the agenda for today? I didn't see anything posted on the bulletin board. Yes, currently the army is patrolling around the capital, so fewer requests are coming into the guild. Even so, we've had a few smaller jobs come in. I'm handling those before they're publicly posted. Figured I'd wrap them up quickly. I see. Wait, Kurt, you're tackling them all yourself? No, I'm actually splitting them up with Karna and everyone else. But although everyone here is talented, there's only a few of us, so I've taken command to ensure that everything gets done efficiently. Goodness, that's impressive, especially since you have matches coming up too. The jobs do make for a good warm-up. Well then, I'll be heading out now. And hey, if we end up facing off, go easy on me, will you? That's our line, but best of luck to you in the tournament as well. He really does seem like someone you can count on. He stands out even among the bracers in the capital. Kurt, the artful tactician, is well known even in the Republic. He put on a strong performance in the prelims too. But isn't he taking on a bit too much, especially with the tournament underway? I wish I could say there's nothing to worry about, but he's captaining his team this year too, so I'm sure the burden is a heavy one. Lately, he's shown some signs of fatigue. And that's actually why I have a favor to ask of you. You don't gotta be so polite, Eldon. The braces too, you know. Let us help. Yeah, especially if it helps lighten Kurt's load even a little. We can't walk away from this one. It'd damage the Immovable's reputation. It'll be a good warm-up for us too. Thank you. I knew I could count on you all. Side missions. The request is posted. Alright. Everyone, I'm counting on you. Okay, leave it to us. So these will definitely get through. Oh, this I will definitely get through. Wayside wallet. I lost my wallet somewhere. Please find a wallet for me. I'm just not feeling up for it. I'm usually spacing out with my best friend Ricky in front of the department store. Oh, this is where that kid is. A lot of stuff that I thought happened in this game, as I go along, I realized a lot of stuff that I thought would happen in this game does not actually happen until the second game. And this character, this Anton, is one of them. So let me go here.
Hey, welcome. What do we need?
I would officially consider this the end game. So end game builds are going to be more important. So let me go over these. Ideally, I'd have an action 3 on everybody. So Estelle needs an action 3. I'm not unlocking that. Those things get unlocked by themselves. Oh, I guess maybe not. Maybe after the tournament they get unlocked by themselves. An action 3 would be great on everybody. Strike is terrible on Olivier. Because I like my Olivier to be a mage, so let's go to some action 3s.
Alright, it's decided.
S3, Dark Shield. Emerald Shield. I'm not a big fan of critical health builds. Generally. Not until Cold Steel. Because it can get really strong for the Cold Steel games. You actually take like no damage at low HP, but these are just the regular buffs. There's no actual built-in damage reduction at low HP. So let's put this on Joshua, or Estelle rather. Action 3. And I'm gonna put one on Olivia as well.
What do we need?
So, what'll it be?
I made up my mind. See you later.
And speed is always a god stat. Strike is terrible. Let's give him action 3. This is Fireball, Flare Arrow, and 14. It's fine. He has Chaos Brand, Clock Up X, which is fantastic. Okay. Next.
Oh,
Are
welcome.
there any bargains?
So, what'll it be?
I have no money. There we go. So usually, this is the part where you start selling useless shit, old shit that we don't use anymore, like these weapons. Yeah, okay. Ah, you actually get all the old weapons from the other characters. I didn't realize that. Okay. Rid of all these. So you're perfect for, wait, hold on. Did I get... No, that can be sold, okay.
Time for some shopping.
So, what'll it be?
Okay. And all these armors. We have a lot of money by the end of this. Stregas, double spikes, craft shoes. Okay. These I should hold on to. These I should also hold on to. And I really don't want to sell my consumables. Not worth it, so, but getting these upgrades is worth it, so. We did Estelle and Joshua last time, so we are with Sin's weapon, Black Iron Gauntlets,
I got it.
and the Silver Star for Olivier. Help with his arts
It's
damage.
decided.
And we need these
I made up my mind.
shield coat,
I'll take this.
shield coat, composite shoes.
I pick you. I got it.
Okay, we are set. Now we can sell his old stuff. Stinger and Beastside gauntlets, metal jackets, craft shoes. All right.
Are there any bargains?
So, what'll it be?
You're set.
Thanks.
I got gifted this tea. It's a chocolate mint tea. Which is a little strange to me because I didn't think it would taste very good because there's chocolate in it. But actually, the chocolate is very faint. It tastes good. It tastes great, actually. We've got this side quest.
Hey, why are people staring at us?
A lone warrior from the Republic who conquered the preliminaries. That would naturally garner attention.
I'm sure the other contestants are keeping an eye on us too.
Just stand tall. We've just gotta give it our all.
Anton, here he is. For some reason I thought his name was Antonio. Anton here is a very much recurring character in the series. I can't believe I lost my wallet. What did I do to deserve this? Or is it perhaps because I haven't done anything at all? Sigh. Are you Anton? Are you two bracers? Yes, we saw your request and came here. I'd never imagined you'd come, especially for someone like me. I could really use your help. Can you take the request immediately? Yes. Yeah, we can. Really? Really, really, really? Yes, really. You said you lost your wallet, right? Yeah, that's right. I noticed it was missing this morning. Anyway, I'm counting on you. Whoa, calm down, buddy. Besides, if we're going to look for it, it'd help if you gave us more details. You noticed this morning, so does that mean you lost it yesterday? Yeah, probably. Yesterday, I spent the whole day hanging out here with Ricky. But I realized I couldn't keep going like this, so I decided to take action in the evening. Action. To change my life for the better. So I went to the bar. It was the first time I'd ever have a drink alone. I ended up at the Sunnyvale Inn at South District. My first time drinking alone. Wait, how is drinking alone supposed to be life-changing? You're still so naive. A stunning beauty longing to ease her loneliness. An elderly gentleman who uncovers hidden talents in young souls. I admit, I am also one of Rugen's bars hoping for such serendipitous encounters. Not sure why you're so proud of that. Well, interesting encounters do happen occasionally. Anyway, I was sipping my drink waiting for such an encounter. And the next thing I knew, I woke up at the capital's main gate plaza. A soldier woke me up, and as I stumbled along, I realized, along with my memories of yesterday, my wallet was gone. So you got drunk and lost it without even realizing. Please, I'm begging you, could you find my wallet? Or else I'll miss it on the food stalls at the birthday festival. That is definitely a reason to send in a request. Okay, we get it. By the way, Olivia and Zin, you two were at the bar last night, weren't you? Did you happen to see Anton? Come to think of it, I might have caught a glimpse of him, but I wasn't really paying attention. We were too caught up having fun last night. Well, I suppose it can't be helped. Anyway, let's start by gathering info at the bar. I'm counting on you.
Let's begin.
Alright.
I'm here to support you.
Wallet. I don't think there's a tower in this map. There might be, and I think I can't get to it yet. Tetra means 5, right? No, Tetra means 4. Penta is 5. I think I've done all the towers in the game now. Okay. Culetti. Oh, Olivier, how's your head? Much better, thank you. For as long as there is love in the world, this passionate heart of mine will carry on beating for all eternity. Yep, looks like you're feeling better, alright. By the way, there's something I'd like to ask. They asked about Anton and the whereabouts of his wallet. Ah, you must mean the customer who came alone last night. Unfortunately, there weren't any lost wallets or items like that here. I see. It would have made things easier if it had been here. How was Anton acting while he was here? I think he had about 3 or 4 drinks. He kept looking around like he was waiting for someone. He also wandered about observing other customers and briefly touched the piano. I thought he might be drunk, so I asked if he was alright. Then he left, looking depressed. He said something along the lines of, I guess I'll never have a fateful encounter anyway. That's exactly what he said earlier. Seems like he was waiting here for his fateful encounter. Unfortunately, it didn't happen for him last night. And then he left, sulking. Now that you mention it, I do recall seeing a young man like that last night. How should I put it? I think it's pointless to just wait around like that. I think that's enough criticism of our client. Do you happen to know where Anton went afterward? If I remember correctly, he said he wanted to enjoy the night breeze and went south. I don't know where he went after leaving the shop. He mentioned waking up in the main square near the city's front gate. Yeah, someone might have seen him there. Let's ask around. Okay. It's already marked. Armand and Ellie. Asked if anyone saw Anton last night. Huh? Yeah, Armand, isn't that person... Yeah, that's the guy who talked to us last night. You talked to him? Yeah, we were just walking around the city after dinner. That night view with Valeria Lake's calm waves lapping the shore, it was absolutely beautiful. Of course, Ellie's eyes were tens of 1,000 times more beautiful. Oh, Armand, stop it. You two are so lovey-dovey. I'm actually getting jealous. Could you please continue your story? Oh, did I skip one? No, I didn't. Okay. That was just a weird speech bubble glitch. Anyway, after we'd seen the fountain, we were about to head back to the hotel. But then we noticed a man standing there staring at us. We wondered if he might be a bit drunk. His face is quite flushed. He kept staring at us, so we asked him if something was wrong. He replied, "Why now, goddess? How could you be so cruel?" And right after saying that, he suddenly took off. Right. Did we offend him somehow without realizing? No, it's not your fault. It's the world that's cruel. Anyway, did you happen to notice if he dropped anything? No, I didn't notice anything, and I was watching him closely. The guy... Look at the merchant. He's stuck in his, T-pose. That is, until he ran out of the main gate. Wait, he went onto the highway at night? Must have been the alcohol. It's a miracle he made it back safely. Safely. Well, if that's the case, we'll have to include the highway in our search. But considering Anton eventually woke up in the city... Oh, you think someone brought him back? This is becoming rather interesting. In any case, let's check areas outside the capital where people might be. Can we go now? Kind of a date to be getting on with. Armand, where should we go next? I'll take you anywhere you want to go. Oh my. I've had enough.
Take your time to look around.
Alright. This is exactly where we need to go. Thank you, fast travel. Private Barranco. What's wrong? You have business at Remake? We just wanted to ask something. Asked if anyone saw Anton last night. Ah, that young man. Yeah, he was definitely at Grune Gate yesterday. Really? Yeah, he startled us by wandering down the highway late at night. He ran over here in a terrible state, drunk out of his mind. We took care of him here for a little while. I see. Kind of shocking a civilian made it this far. It's a miracle he didn't run into any monsters. We said a little while, so he didn't stay long? He kept insisting he had to return to the capital to meet his friend next day. Also, hello Salamandius, how was your week? Your week? This week? It was already late at night, but we managed to escort him back to town. He said, "This is fine at the main gate," so we parted ways there. And then he ended up falling asleep in the main square. Good grief, what a troublemaker. Well, at least now we have an idea of what happened. By the way, did he happen to drop anything here? Come to think of it, we found a wallet this morning. We've been keeping it safe here. Wait a moment, I'll go get it. Obtained Anton's wallet. Thank goodness, we found it safe and sound. I never imagined it'd turn up so far from the city. Seriously, I'm suddenly feeling exhausted. We'd better return it to him quickly. Make sure you warn him not to drink too much in the future.
Now then.
Sorry, this tea is really good. Fucking pissed because the Bears are getting crushed by our rivals in the playoffs. Why let this team give me hope to infinite embarrassment? So here, hockey is the popular sport here, and our team is, they lose every game. So I know exactly that, that feeling. I don't know why I let this team give me hope.
Let's go.
That's good. I feel for you, I really do. Let me save here. So I know exactly what every sports team in the city I live in gets crushed every fucking game. Yet they still have fans. Well, their merch is very popular. Like the jerseys and hats and shit. But they always lose, every single time. Does that mean that the Bears are no longer going to, No, that was for to get into the playoffs. Never mind. Never mind. So are they out completely, or is there still some hope to go a little bit further? Can't do anything right. Great team all season, all of a sudden nothing is going right. One of those teams, huh? There was I misspoke previously. I talked about was it the Jays? I said there was a hockey team. It's a baseball team. I don't know why I said hockey last time. For some reason, hockey was on my. But I remember the hype around the Jays making it to Los Angeles and completely and utterly flubbing their winning the championships. If you lose, they're out. One and done playoffs. Ah, okay, I see. In other words, it's so over. Anton, we found your wallet. Really? Let me see it. Return the wallet to Anton. Whoa, that's my wallet. Thank you so much. I thought I'd never see it again. Looks like you just got really lucky this time. You should really thank the soldiers at Gruden Gate, you know. Well, I actually don't remember even going near the gate. There really are kind people in this world. The soldiers at the gate, you guys too. Hey, don't cry. It's just part of our job as bracers. I'm just so glad there are people who would go out of their way for someone like me. I'm sure my life will turn around now that the goodness of my fellow man has warmed my heart. Huh? And to your rivals, the Packers, could not be worse. Oh no, I've already talking shit about them before too. 10 stream streak. God damn. Salamandis, you are showing significant amounts of support. I thank you for that. Enjoy your extra zennies. Wait a second. What is it? There's only 23 Mira here. No way, I'm sure I had at least 1,000 Mira yesterday. Don't tell me the soldiers or you guys took it. We wouldn't do something like that. Pixelate! Some of the zennies been expended, and now I've aged. So old. But I've lost a lot of weight. So thank you for the pixelate. I feel lighter now. Get older because I'm pissed, yes. Take out your frustrations on me. I can take it. Just let me do a couple stretches. Made for that front line. Didn't you spend quite a bit of time at the bar yesterday? Maybe you spent it all then. No way. Even I couldn't spend that much in one night. Wait, now that you mention it, I might have ordered a bunch of expensive cocktails to look cool. Sigh. Are you okay? Forget it. This is just my fate after all. I'll just continue living my empty life, clutching my empty wallet. Hey, you don't have to be that pessimistic. Don't worry about it. It's just Anton being Anton. He'll bounce back eventually. Maybe. Is that really okay? Estelle, let's leave him alone. Yeah, we completed his request after all. Doing anything more would just be meddling. All we can do now is wish him luck in the future. Yeah, I guess you're right. Let's leave it at that. Sigh.
Done.
Despondency.
Very good.
Poor Anton.
I'm exhausted from all that.
Stell, you're starting to sound like him.
Well, I hope things will be easier for Kurt now.
I got my wallet back. It's totally empty. Anton is prevalent throughout this series as probably the most recurrent NPC. He is fucking everywhere. I love it. Okay, let's go ahead and sit. I'd also like a reminder how close I am to the next.
I see.
Oh, it's close. We're so close. The Grail Locket. Gladiator belt, grail locket. I wonder why this has a badge and the other ones don't. Interesting. I must have missed some stuff. Oh, no, it just tells me which one I'm currently at. Okay, I see.
Please keep it up.
So 8 more. That grail locket is perfect. It makes you immune to debuffs. So this is done. It looks like that's all the side quests. For now, it's just the one. I wonder if they're more spread out here. Because the last area at Zeiss, they were like... There was like 8 side missions before the main story. It's like, god damn. Spent a whole ass stream just doing those. Alright, we continue.
What's going to happen this year?
Do some cheering.
Good save. So that must mean we're doing our first fight soon, right? Oh shit, I didn't get side accessories for Zin and Olivier. Morning! Oh my, good morning, Zin. The match isn't starting until noon. What brings you here so early? I put together a team and I wanted to register them. Can you help? Oh, congratulations. I was a bit worried for you when I heard you were planning to fight alone. Oh, didn't I see you two yesterday? Hi there. We're gonna help Zin today and join him in the tournament. I see. Well then, please fill out the required information on these registration forms. Estelle, Joshua, and Olivier fill out the necessary details on the registration documents. Oh, so the 2 of you with the Bracer Guild. And as of this gentleman, a wandering poet of unparalleled musical genius, an emissary of love and peace, currently seeking a passionate lover. He would fill all that out in his fucking registration form. You're making me blush, fair lady. By the way, what are you doing after this? Perhaps we could enjoy a few drinks after the match. Just ignore this idiot, for the sake of your own sanity. Please just proceed with our registration. Alright. Your registration for the Royal Tournament is now complete. Your team consists of team leader Zin and members Estelle, Joshua, and Olivier. Please note that the substitutions are not allowed, even if a member becomes unable to participate. Understood. Thank you. It's all starting to feel real now. So, do you know who we're up against today? The matchups have already been decided, but to prevent betting, we don't reveal them until just before the matches. Although, you'll have an idea of who your opponent is based on the room you're assigned. I see, so you're facing one of the teams assigned to the opposite side. Exactly. Now, let me give you your registration cards. Alrighty? Just shout out to the staff at the entrance, so you'll be granted access to the arena. I wish you all the best of luck in the match. Okay, let me equip these 2 real fast, so... Burn, Confuse, Death Blow, okay. Defense ADF, Seal Mute, Stat Debuff. With the defense up, that'll be perfect. Force Seal, resist stat, okay. Evasion up, resist delay, resist death blow. I'll definitely give him this, because give him more HP. Okay, Olivier. Arts defense, speed up. Burn, Confuse, death blow, perfect. Okay. Arts evasion, resist confuse, okay. Resist petrify. Burn, mute, seal. I'll give him mute. Wait. Yeah, mute. What does arts up to? Alright. No other side stuff. Okay. Well, we're getting to the tournament faster than I thought we would. I thought it'd be all side missions, but... Usher! Usher. That registration card. You must be competing in the World Tournament. Once you enter, we ask that you remain inside the arena until the match is over. Are you ready to proceed? We're ready. Understood. Please use the waiting room for the Azure team. It'll be on the right once you enter the hall. Best of luck in the match. It's just the one fight. and then another one the day after. Because Zin already won the first day. This is the tournament saga from Dragon Ball. This is the Azure Team's waiting room. That must mean we're in the right place. Yep, this is definitely it. In that case, I'll take this opportunity to finally relax until the match starts. What are you talking about? You're always relaxed.
Don't y'all look cozy?
Oh boy. Winkus, Dinkus, and Mo. You guys are...
What rotten luck running into you. Ha ha ha! Guess the time has finally come to settle the score.
Sorry. Choked on my tea. Sorry, where are you guys again?
We're the Ravens! The gang that runs Ruan.
Oh, he's pissed.
How could you forget about us?
Yeesh, I was just pulling your leg. We saw some of your buddies fight in the preliminaries yesterday, so I figured you were in town. What exactly are you doing here anyway? Playing to break any laws? Ha ha ha. Oh ho ho ho. What's wrong with you guys? You're giving me the creeps. Wait, you're not competing in the tournament, are you? What? Hey, what's with that look? Yeah, we fought our way through the preliminaries just like the rest of you. And people who roll in late can tell us nothing. Wow, I'm really impressed. A group of amateurs like you guys made it all the way to the finals. You must have trained really hard, huh? What the hell's with this chick? I thought you guys are just some lame thugs, but you got guts after all. Gotta say, I'm pretty impressed. We're nothing special. Stop grinning, damn it. Don't let her fool you. Anyway, you humiliated us last time. We're gonna wipe the floor with you this time. Ha, bring it on. By the way, are you guys in this waiting room too? Nah, we're on the opposite side. So, there's a chance we'll duke it out today. If that happens, let's fight it out fair and square. No response. They're so confused. Huh? What is it? Let's just go. Yeah, this is getting awkward. Let's get some grub before the match. What the? How rude. I didn't say anything weird, did I? Nope, not at all. You're really just something else. Huh? Don't worry about it. Your obliviousness to your own charm is very you, Estelle. Feels like you're all making fun of me. No, we aren't. Anyway, let's head inside the waiting room until the match starts. Now then. The tournament saga. And Prince Boldcut. It's about to start. What should I do? I'm getting super nervous. Calm down, Estelle. They'll call us when it's our turn, so let's just sit tight for now. I just can't help it. I'm gonna talk to everybody here. Damn. Joshua. If you're feeling restless, why don't you try talking to some of the other contestants here to distract yourself? It's not like we're going up against anyone in this room today. Zin. After getting a good look at them, all the teams look pretty tough. Coming all the way to Liberal was definitely worth it. Olivier. Ah, the anticipation. It's just like opening night at the opera. May the stage sweep me off my feet and carry me away. We got these Royal Army dudes. Lieutenant Byrne. General Morgan's not participating this year, so we gotta fight hard enough to make up for him. We're already down by one score, and with 10 minutes left of the fourth quarter. We'll pull us off into a quiz. There's still hope. There's still hope. Fingers crossed. Knock on every piece of wood in your vicinities, and pray to whatever gods you may or may not believe in. The border division is composed of elites. No matter who we're up against, we can't afford to lose easily. Private Micaiah? This is Brian. This is Bian. Or Bian? Bian? Micaiah? This tournament is a good opportunity to gauge the skills of other units and you bracers. Seeing everyone makes me want to train even harder. These are just nameless mooks. Private George. Don't bother me. I'm focusing my mind on the battle ahead. Private Terrence. We're still not up yet. Private Zane. We gotta give it our all. Let's see if all our training pays off. Private Isaac. No matter who we're facing off against, we gotta hit him with everything we got. Lieutenant Real. Are you lot bracers? You got a lot more skill than I expect from kids your age. Let's both do our best out there. Alright, now we have the other bracers. Kurt. Hey, what's wrong? Just feeling a little restless, I guess. You know, when you're tense, your breathing becomes quick and shallow. Taking deep, slow breaths should help ease the tension. Deep and slow breaths, huh? In, out. In, out. Oh, I'm feeling calmer, I think. Thanks, Kurt. You're welcome. I don't care if we lose next week or in the Super Bowl, we have to win this game. Don't lose to the Packers. Anybody? All the money is on the line now, understand. Karna. Hi, Estelle. So, being in the same room means we won't be fighting each other just yet, huh? That's too bad. Yeah, but the wait means it'll be even more exciting when we finally do duke it out. Now that's the spirit. You have Analysts. Hey, Estelle. Oh, Analysts. You managed to join Zin's team, huh? I'm looking forward to watching your match. And we have Grant. Hey, looks like you managed to enter the tournament after all. Yep, all thanks to you. I'm looking forward to seeing what you can do out there. Let's both give it our all.
Ladies and gentlemen, we thank you for your patience. The Royal Tournament's main event is about to begin. We will now announce the combatants in our first amazing match. In the Azure Corner, from the Bracer Guild Gransel branch, a team of 4 led by Kurt. And in the Crimson Corner, from the Royal Army's Assault Cavalry, Lieutenant Jade and his team.
Okay, so they got nameless mooks, it looks like. Or it sounds like anyway. Alright, looks like we're up. The Assault Cavalry is known for being stacked with some of the toughest guys around. They're an opponent worth fighting, that's for sure. Good luck, you guys. You got this. Right, leave it to us. Alright, we're off. Do I have to watch? I think you have to actually watch the fights.
The first match of the Royal Tournament is about to begin. Both teams
Mustachio
to
Man.
your starting positions.
Rooting for the other bracers. I'm thoroughly expecting to whip some ass.
Begin.
Round 1, main match.
A worthy opponent. Let's go, guys.
Yeah!
Yeah. Grant Sword, huge surge. I like how his sword is called Grant Sword.
Yeah.
Go with a snipe,
Thank
defense
you,
down.
technique. Impervious steel.
Defense up buff. A basic melee attack. Okay. Snipe. Long range attack and Kurt. They're spreading their damage too much. Here comes the arts. Arrow Storm. It's a tier 5 spell, I think. Oh my god. Atlas almost killed all of them. Sleep shot. Alright, that guy's out. The Grant special. It is totally world like fucking Link.
Thank you, technique. Crested waves.
Nice party heal. Yeah, these guys are done. They already lost someone in the first round of attacks. Snipe.
Time to finish things.
Spirit Roar. Strength up and arts up. Here comes the Grant Sword. And that guy's dead.
Team Kurt is on the offensive. Will they finish things right there and now?
Damn, Kurt! Obliterated him with a fucking regular attack. And Analyst is going out loud.
How pathetic.
10,400 damage. Whew.
The match is over. Team Kurt wins!
They did it. Karna's team won. That's the Bracers of Liberal for you. They've got some serious skills. Indeed. Though few in number, each one has a strength of 1,000. If we end up having to face them, it'll be a tough match for sure. Nice fight, everyone. Hey, well fought out there. That's quite an honor coming from the immovable Zin. That was way tougher than the preliminaries, though. We barely managed to scrape by.
Now for today's second match. In the Azure Corner, a warrior who hails from the Calvard Republic,
That's
Zin
us.
and his 3 teammates. And the Crimson Corner, calling themselves the Ravens, we have Dean
Yeah, we
and
do
the
have
3 members of his crew.
The delinquents.
We're up.
And our opponents are those guys.
Not exactly the most elegant of foes, but at least this match should be entertaining.
All right, let's get out there.
Alrighty. Go ahead and save real fast. Alright, the 40-hour mark. Not bad. Might be closer to 35, though. I think there was a night where I accidentally left this on.
Looks like we're getting our shot at revenge even sooner than I thought.
Seems like the goddess finally decided to do something cool, huh?
After what happened last time, we realized how weak we were, decided to give it our all, and trained like hell. Now, it's time to show you everything we've learned.
That's the spirit. We won't be holding back either. We're coming at you with everything we've got.
Oh? Estelle is rather fired up today, isn't she? She's got this manly aura about her.
Manly?
You know if she hears you say that, she'll punch you, right?
Okay, it's time to get started.
A weird way to put that.
The second match of the Royal Tournament is about to begin. Both teams to your starting positions. Ready?
Ready? Steady?
Begin!
Main match, round 2. Alright. This shouldn't be difficult.
I'll handle the lot of
What do we have? See, Olivier's a much higher level, so he's gonna have new stuff. Quick draw. Arcs down, EDF down, steal bonus, snipe shots is... Impede, mute, back attack bonus, happy trigger, heal. Oh, this gives mana as well. Removes debuffs. That'd be very good. Howling bullet, steal bonus, and mute. Okay. That's great and all. However,
Keep going.
Clock Up EX is busted.
Let's begin. I'll handle the lot of you.
I'd like to steal their bonus. Because he has a crit coming up.
Shall we dance? Here we go!
We'll
Nice.
show you the new spirit of the Raven! Ha ha! Yeah! We'll crush you!
So many people are watching. I feel a little restless.
I'd say
Curious
it's wondrous.
if they can actually be
Let's
confused.
grasp their very hearts.
If they can, perfect.
I'll
If not,
support you.
oh, it's not a big deal. I don't need it. I just want to see if it works. Resist. Okay.
Let's do this.
That's the spirit. I've got your back. Now give it your all.
Hit with morale. Unfortunately, we don't have Tita or battery, so we can't spam limit breaks,
Go
but
for it, Zin.
we do have Zin and everybody else.
I'll finish you all off right here!
Come on, over here!
Miss 3 times and defense down. Oh, they can get confused. Perfect.
What are you looking at?
Now it's my turn.
Okay, Distend is another powerful. This thing was busted in the old game. So,
Let's go. I can take them all.
so they can be confused, and that means we can chaos spread shit to death.
There.
Let's begin.
I'll handle the lot of you.
With grace.
Upkeep this shit.
Get it together.
Spank. You spank the guy's confused too, which is perfect. Nice, more confused.
I can take them all.
Just gonna go ahead and break this fight here, no big deal.
Let's begin.
I'll handle the lot of you.
How's this?
Well, since they're all confused, there's no reason to... actually don't have any AoE on Olivia. Okay, he's gonna be our Chaos brand. Monkey.
There.
And we're also just AoE and can
I'm
and
feeling
do
sharp.
damage.
Let's go.
Nice, so it's up. Okay.
I can take them all.
I'll be your opponent. I'll get you all.
Oh, so that's a blind strike down. Okay, I see.
Let us begin.
Look at these idiots beat each other up.
Here we go.
Okay.
I'll finish you all right here.
Oh, it's in,
Keep pushing.
I don't know what I'll do.
Ready anytime.
Go ahead and make this easy. Craft boost. Nice. Hit him with the Gallic gun.
They flipped. We'll finish them off.
Oh, these guys are a joke. Okay.
Uh-oh. Team Ravens is at a disadvantage. Will Team Zin finish them all?
Not yet.
This damage actually kind of sucks, doesn't it?
Till it's over. Yeah, we're about to turn.
Make sure they don't enrage at the very least. Because I will break the good news. I'm down. Hearts boost. Very nice.
Come on. Don't get cocky. Quit acting dead. Sit.
This might kill them. Like ahead up. Doom Guide's favorite spell.
Looks like this is it. You ain't dying yet.
My turn.
Yeah, these guys are almost dead. Alright.
How's this?
I don't want to waste it. I hope this kills him. Yeah, these guys are dead.
Give it to me. Ready and
Just to be sure.
after all that training,
Still can't match him, huh?
The match is over. Team Zin wins.
we lost. After everything. That was rough.
Damn it. Damn it, damn it, damn it!
Damn it.
Hey, don't let this get you down. Honestly, I'm impressed. You guys really have gotten stronger.
No, they haven't.
I agree. You guys are way stronger than when we fought at the Varen Lighthouse.
I think it was easier this time around.
Really? I don't really remember much about that.
Well, whatever the case, we both gave it everything we had. Let's all hold our heads high and go back to the waiting room.
I didn't think those punks would put up such a fight. They didn't. People really can change, huh? We knew they wouldn't win, but it was still a pretty good match. Thank you, thank you. Of course, their newfound resolve is all thanks to my charming influence. Oh, is that so? Look, she believed you. Stop making stuff up. Besides, you didn't even know those guys. The act of falling in love happens instantaneously. Its acceleration and capacity are limitless, you see. That makes absolutely no sense.
Now for the third match of the day. In the Azure Corner, 4 members of the Royal Army's 3rd Regiment of the Airborne Division, led by Lieutenant Ryle.
Oh, Ryle, sorry, I thought it was real. Hey, we're up. Let's go all out. Aye, aye, sir.
And in the Crimson Corner, led by Dawn, this team is from the Capua family,
Oh,
a
God.
notorious group of sky pirates.
The Capuas. Huh? The Capua family? Oh me, oh my. Now that's a name I do actually know. Sure as shit, there they are.
Allow me to provide a bit of clarification. As many of you may know, these folks are sky pirates associated with the Capua family and the incident in Bose. They have expressed their desire to compete and bring joy to the masses by fighting in this tournament. They hope this will help make amends for the trouble they've caused in the kingdom. It was with this sincere intent that they requested to participate in today's match. Due to their good behavior and the approval of Duke Dunan, their participation has been allowed. We thank you for your understanding.
Changing the rules to a team match and now letting criminals join the fray? Feels like the Duke's just going to let anything go at this point. The Duke certainly is generous, isn't he? This isn't something to laugh about. It really does seem like he's taking things too far. Pistachio.
Quiet, everyone. Quiet, please. The 3rd match of the Royal Tournament is about to begin. Both teams to your starting positions.
All money's on the Capuas.
Ready?
Ready, steady, and GG.
Begin!
Main match, round 3.
Capua family, off to battle!
Yeah, we're not holding back.
I'll give it my all.
Turn up.
Yep, here comes the grenades, the AoE. And these guys are all together. They're screwed. This guy at Dawn here is a fucking menace.
Team Ryle's cornerstone has fallen. Team Dawn unexpectedly takes the lead.
You see that?
By the Royal Army's honor, I won't fall here.
Why do generic soldiers blur into enemy or else they're gonna win, right? Who could possibly predict how this match is gonna go?
Snap out of it!
Honestly, I think Dawn could kill all 4 of them by himself. He gave me the most this year in their dungeon. The Dread Cannon. And there it is.
And that's the match. Team Dawn wins.
Oh, they actually won. It's not that surprising when you consider their skills. But what happens if they win the tournament? What are they going to do then? Invite the pirates to a royal banquet? That would certainly be a sight to see. We can't let that happen. We have to stop them. In any case, seems like we got another tough opponent to keep an eye on. Damn it. Losing to a bunch of criminals. Don't take it so hard. They're used to fighting in groups. That's what made the difference. No, this is on us for not being good enough. Once we're back with the unit, we'll need to start training even more.
And now, today's 4th and final match. In the Azure Corner, a team from the 7th Regiment of the Border Division, led by Lieutenant Byrne.
It's all up to you now. You know who you're facing, so don't you dare lose. I know. We'll show them the true power of the Royal Army. Let's go, everyone. Yes, sir.
And in the Crimson Corner, led by Second Lieutenant Lawrence, a team from the Intelligence Division's Special Ops Unit.
It's them! Lieutenant Lawrence. The coolest survivors here. Lieutenant Lawrence. Could he be?
The fourth match of
Oh,
the
yeah.
Royal Tournament
The Giga
is
Chats here.
about to begin. Both teams to your starting positions.
He's so cool.
Ready, set.
Why don't you have a cooler advisor, huh? I'm level 4, man. You gotta wait to get the endgame equipments. I gotta grind a lot more. One day I'll be as cool as he is. One day. Besides, blue's more my color.
We'll show you the regular army's power.
Do pink. Yeah. We got breast cancer awareness survivor.
Now.
God, he just fucking one-shot him. Shit. That was a regular attack too, and another one's dead. Look at his sword skills. He is a swordman among swordmen.
Can Team Burn still fight back?
Don't underestimate me.
This last guy by himself. He's a sword guy, yeah. He's the sword guy. That guy had actually strong arts. Huh. It's not gonna matter though. Oh.
I'll end you. Stand back.
And he's down. Let's drop a meteor on him, yeah.
And it's over. Team Lawrence wins.
What the hell was that? I totally squashed them. Whoa, those guys are the real deal. I figured they'd add a fourth member since they only fought with 3 in the prelims. But I had no idea they had an ace like that up their sleeve. So like us, they've added another member to their team. Look at Joshua, look at his face. Quite the hidden trump card indeed. That sword technique. Huh? Joshua, what's wrong? It can't be, but... Joshua? Hey, Joshua. It's nothing. I'm fine. That technique was just so impressive, I couldn't take my eyes off it. Really? As expected. Your sensitivity is truly admirable.
With that, we conclude the first day of the Royal Tournament's main event. Advancing to the second day are Team Kurt, Team Dawn, Team Zin, and Team Lawrence. Let's continue to cheer them on.
I hope I don't gotta fight Team Lords. I'll tell you that right now. $20,000 mirror! Holy goddamn! Whew. I'm rich. My prize winnings. Alright, we made it to the second round. We don't know who we'll face next, but let's keep this momentum going. Absolutely. Honestly, everybody seems really tough. Senior Bracers, Sky Pirates, not to mention those guys from the Intelligence Division. You're right, we'll need to stay focused. Oh, come now, no need to worry. The power of our love gushes forth like a mighty spring, ready to wash away all obstacles in its path. There he goes, spouting nonsense again. Let's rest well today so we're ready for tomorrow. I'm heading to the bar. What about you guys? Oh, I'd be delighted to join you. We should probably stop by the guild to file a report. There might be some new info about the request, too. Yeah, good idea. Sorry, Zin. We'll let it pass tonight. Well then, I guess this is where we part ways for the day. I can read properly. I'm not blind. Let's meet up at the hotel tomorrow morning. Au revoir, my precious little pussycats. So, should we head to the guild? Yeah. And I think we should try to gather some information elsewhere too. Huh? What are you just standing around for? Oh, it's you guys. Really good job today. Don't get cocky now. We didn't have enough time to train properly for today. Next time we fight, we'll win for sure. What? We're seriously doing this again? Haha, sure. If we get another chance, I'd happily take you guys on again. Estelle, you sure you want to agree to that? Oh, it's fine. If they focus on their training, they won't have time to cause trouble, right? You brats sure are free spirits, ain't you? Anyway, here, take this. Grancel Sewer Key A. What's this? This key looks really old. It opens the lattice door in the west block. The door leads to the sewer system. Yeah, we randomly came across the key, so we've been exploring down there every day. There's some tough monsters roaming around down there. It's actually a pretty good place to train. Oh, you mean... Don't get the wrong idea, yeah? We're just giving it to you because you guys lose. It'll make us look bad. Got it? You have to win. Anything less is unacceptable. Later. So does that mean... Yeah, looks like they're rooting for us. They're saying we should train in the sewers to get ready for the next match. Yeah, that's what I thought. Maybe those guys really have turned over a new leaf. I think your big heart won them over. I think you'd make a surprisingly good gang leader, Estelle. That's not exactly what I'd call a compliment. Anyway, let's just accept their gesture for what it is. It's already pretty late. We should probably skip the sewers for today. We can put our skills in the tester tomorrow morning before the match. Got it. Let's head to the guild and report to Eldon.
Oh, maybe it's the nerves wearing off, but suddenly, I'm dead tired.
Should I carry you on my back?
Huh? Oh, no, that's all right.
You don't have to freak out, I was kidding. I'm embarrassed to do that.
Oh. Why am I disappointed?
Why are you disappointed, Estelle? That's your stepbrother you're talking to. You little weirdo. Alright, let's see. No other side stuff. Can't leave the city. The sewers are right here. We can't go in them yet, so. Racer Guild. No new side
Let's check it
missions? No, okay. Reports. Ah, Estelle, Joshua. Congratulations on making it through the first round. Thanks. Wait, Alden, how did you hear about that? Kurt and the others came by and filled me in already. So, how do you feel about your chances? Good question. Only the toughest teams are still left in the tournament. That includes the senior Bracer team as well, of course, but... Joshua and Estelle explained the Sky Pirate and Special Ops teams. I see. I had heard about the Sky Pirates, but... I didn't expect the leader of the Special Ops to be such a formidable opponent. The regular soldiers seem tough enough, but their captain's on a whole nother level. He swings that huge blade like it's nothing, and moves as fast as a leopard. I could tell there was something different about him, but I had no idea it'd be that strong. Yeah. Elnan. Do you happen to know anything about Lieutenant Lawrence's background? Nothing concrete, I'm afraid. The Intelligence Division is a newly formed unit put together by Colonel Richard, from people all across the different branches. I'd guess Lawrence is one of those recruits. That would make sense. Hey, Joshua. You seem pretty fixated on that guy. Is there something about him that's bothering you? No, it's just... he's clearly not an ordinary person. We might have to face him, so I'd like to know what he's capable of in advance. I see, that makes sense. It's not about that lieutenant, but... I heard that the Royal Army's patrol ship arrived at the capital's landing port earlier this afternoon. It seems Captain Amalthea, Colonel Richard's adjutant, was on board. Now that's worth paying attention to. Captain Amalthea, that scheming fox lady. She's the one who blackmailed the professor using Tita as leverage. What a nasty piece of work. Apparently, she's been making the rounds in all 5 major cities. Her patrol ship is also causing significant delays for airliners. I swear, she just makes everything terrible. Making the rounds for all the major cities, huh? That seems a bit excessive if their only goal is to find the professor. We've got the local guild branches looking into it. I'll let you know if we find anything. For now, please concentrate on the World Tournament. Yep, that's the plan. Thank you. We'll take our leave now. Okay, so does that...
You don't have anything to report.
Okay, it does not give any points. Okay, and there's nothing to hear.
Let's check it out.
Okay. So it looks like the side missions in this chapter aren't front-loaded. They'll probably be spread throughout the chapter, which is fine. Next is the hotel. Wouldn't save you at least. Oh, I got a reward. New materials. That will come in handy very soon. We're getting close to the end, and we're getting close to the point where you can make endgame weapons. Or ultimate weapons, whatever you would call them. And I think... I need all the books to make them. But I will need new materials, I think. I can't quite remember.
Finally, you're back. You know, it's impolite to keep people waiting, don't you?
That voice. Niall. Our favorite reporter, man. It's been a while, Niall. Oh, it's really you. What's up? Don't tell me you came all the way here just to see us. I sure did. I was covering the World Tournament and people were talking about two young hotshot combatants. The more I looked into it, the more I knew it had to be you guys. I figured you were in the capital and decided to stake out your hotel until you decided to show up. Man, you're as sharp as ever. I'm really happy you came to see us and everything, but knowing you, Niall, this isn't just a friendly visit, is it? Oh, I bet he's on the hunt for another big scoop. Come on now, guys. Have a little faith. Can a handsome young guy come see his friends purely out of the goodness of his heart? I don't buy it. Handsome young guy might be a bit of a stretch. Zip it, kid. Anyway, let's go. Dinner's on me. That was sudden. Not that I mind, but you're really going to treat us right? Ah, I said it's on me, didn't I? There's a place near the office that I go to all the time. We'll grab a bite there. The coffee house barrel. Oh, this place is so nice and cozy. It feels more like a cafe than a tavern, doesn't it? Yeah, I can smell coffee in the air. The owner runs this place as a hobby. He brews coffee using a siphon. It's an absolutely top-notch brew. The curry is made with authentic spices, too. I highly recommend it. Anyway, we can order food and coffee in a minute. Hold it right there. We've been running around all day in the tournament and we're starving. Do you think we could start with dinner? We'd really appreciate it. Ah, you kids are a pain. Fine, order whatever you want. I'll order seconds for all I care. As long as I get my scoop, that's all I care about. I knew you wanted something. By the way, is Dorothy not with you today? Nah, I sent her off on a separate assignment. Anyway, enough chit-chat. Let's head inside. You're driving with 2 minutes left as Bears team has the most wins of the season, trailing in the final two. My dude is so fucking tense right now. Fingers are still crossed, still knocking on all pieces of wood. Let's go Bears. Let's go Bears! My mouth's on fire, but wow, they hit the spot. Tender meat, the fluffy potatoes, everything matched perfectly. This coffee is absolutely delicious. I heard brewing good coffee with a siphon takes quite a bit of skill. You sure know a lot about fine dining when it's on somebody else's dime. Do you kids have any idea what journalists make these days? Alright, I guess we owe you something. Let me guess, you're struggling to find a lead on a story, right? There's no shortage of leads, believe me. But it's all about the same unreliable junk. Stuff about the Royal Guard's terrorist plot or Queen Alicia's health issues. Bottom line, what I need is fresh, unfiltered information. Something real. Something not screened by the army. Dorothy told me a little about the kidnapping incident in Zeiss. I'll cut to the chase. How much dirt do you two have on Colonel Richard? Wow, you don't beat around the bush, do you? The fact that you're even asking us means you already have your own suspicions. So there is something up with the Colonel. After all the buzz he got from the interview in our magazine, I didn't want to believe it. But it sounds like he's one step away from being a full-blown traitor. At this point, we're not certain if he's planning to betray Her Majesty directly. However, it's clear he's using Duke Duden as a puppet to carry out his plans. Duke Duden, huh? He's been playing king in the Queen's absence, doing whatever he pleases. What I want to know is why the army hasn't made a move. Yeah, about that. Hey, Joshua, you think we can tell him? I think so. We also need as much information as we can get. Niall might be able to help us with that. You tie with the field goal and force overtime with a touchdown will all but win the game. This is it. This is the moment of truth. Down to the fucking sticks, man. Hey, so you guys really are sitting on something, aren't you? Just so you know, I highly doubt you'll even be allowed to publish what we're about to tell you. Better brace yourself. Damn, this sounds dangerous. Well, go on, spit it out already. See? I told you to brace yourself. No way. You guys serious about this? Unfortunately, we are. From the airship hijacking to the fire at the orphanage, even the attack on the central factory. Every single one has involved members of the Intelligence Division's Special Ops. Not to mention that the top brass of the army have been blackmailed, and General Morgan is under house arrest. To top it all off, the Royal Guard is being framed as a terrorist group. Alright, I get it. Damn it, there's no way I could publish that. Lately, the magazine's been under strict military censorship. I turn in a story like that, and I'll get arrested for sure. Seriously? That's why I've been submitting these harmless articles about the Royal Tournament. Wait a minute. You're fighting in the tournament, aren't you? There's something you're after. Well, yeah, kind of. It's related to our job, so we can't go into the details. Just think of it as us working to turn this whole situation around. I see. Straining.
All right, I've made up my mind. I can't help as a journalist, but I'll do what I can. I'll dig up stuff through my channels and see what I can figure out.
Yeah, lead. One more stop. You got the lead. $30-27? Jeez, it really is neck and neck, isn't it? Don't throw the kick an easy game. Fingers are still crossed. I have my pinky and my ring finger crossed because my other fingers are being used to play this game. Thanks, that'd be a big help. We're going up against the Royal Army. This could get real dangerous. Are you sure you want to help us?
Please, this is my fight too, you know. I'm not just gonna sit back and watch the pen lose to the sword.
Niall. Understood. We'll be counting on you.
Yeah, just leave it to me. So, what exactly is it that you want me to find out?
Let's see. We could probably start with the army's movements. And then, whether all the Royal Guard has been captured or not. Oh, and where General Morgan is being held.
Got it. I was curious about that too. Okay, anything else you want me to look into?
Would it be possible to look into the backgrounds of the Intelligence Division personnel? What?
Their backgrounds?
Specifically, some of the key figures. Colonel Richard, Captain Amalthea, and Lieutenant Lawrence. Still got a lot of time left in a couple timeouts. Now I'm getting tense. I'm not even watching the fucking show. Fucking game. You guys are making me tense as fuck. The Bears! If we're going to confront them, I'd like to know more about their pasts.
Know your enemy, know yourself, and you'll never be in danger, huh?
Yeah, not just the colonel. I'd really like to know more about that lieutenant too. Like Joshua said, we might end up facing him tomorrow or the next day. Niall, can we ask you to help us with that?
I got a few connections in the army. As long as it's not classified, I might be able to get some basic profiles. Yeah, I'll give it a shot.
Thanks, that'd be great. We appreciate it.
Don't mention it. But in return, if you win the tournament and get into Grancel Castle, You better have some juicy stories for me.
I knew you'd say that. It's a deal, as long as it's nothing too sensitive. So I'm nice, I'm fucking distracted right now because I can't even type in chat. 3127. Don't hyperventilate. After parting ways with Niall, Estelle and Joshua returned to the hotel. The next morning. Looks like we're all here. Shall we head out? Like yesterday, matches start in the afternoon, so we have some free time this morning. Might be a good idea to visit the shops or buy new equipment. Oh, we can also warm up by fighting some monsters. Oh, I know the perfect place. Estelle explained the sewer key received from the Ravens. Interesting. If there are some tough monsters out there, it could make for great training. So, there's an ancient sewer hidden beneath this beautiful city? The romance and thrill of adventure, does it not set the heart ablaze? If we have time, we should check it out before the tournament. They said the entrance to the sewer is on the outskirts of the residential area in the West Block.
I sure drank up a storm last night. You've got some wild stories, buddy.
Ah, sharing fine wine and discussing beautiful ladies. A brilliant experience indeed.
So they're drinking buddies now, huh?
It's nice that they had fun.
Another set of side missions, I'm assuming? Are they going on out there? Alright. Let's see what we got going on here.
Uh-huh.
Child custody. Tourist couple. Our son got lost while sightseeing in the royal capital. Please find and bring him back to us. He'll be waiting near the cathedral West Block, okay? Dangerous monster is in the sewers. West Block monster, okay. We'll do that last. Well, we'll do that while we're in the sewer. Let's do the child custody first. So they're at the church. I think that's over here. That's the sewer. Okay, that's over here. Over here. Mother. Oh, what should we do? Could he have been kidnapped? Just stay calm. I'm sure everything's fine. Excuse me, are you the ones who posted the request? We're from the guild. Oh, you're the Bracers. Thank you for coming. The situation is exactly as I described in the request. Our son disappeared while we were sightseeing in the capital. If only I hadn't taken my eyes off him. Would you mind starting the search for him right now? Yes. Yeah, of course. Getting lost in a big city like this, he must be so scared. Yeah, we better find him quickly. Alright, let's get started. Please tell us what happened when your son went missing along with any details that might help us identify him. Thank you so much. Our son's name is Mito. He'll be turning 5 this year. I hope I said that right. I said Mito, but they're gonna say fucking like Mito or some shit. We were visiting the capital's famous landmarks. We took our eyes off him for a second and he vanished. He's really curious, so he probably saw something that caught his eye and wandered off. Yeah, I can believe that. The capital has more than enough distractions. Do you remember exactly where he went missing? It happened while we were at the plaza in front of the castle. We were admiring the magnificent castle and before he knew it. Got it. That's enough info for now. Let's head to the castle plaza first and investigate there. There might be witnesses. The sooner we start, the better. You two, please wait here so we don't end up losing each other. Okay. Please, we're counting on you.
Here we go,
Right.
Estelle. I'm here to support you.
Fast forward mode. Speed boost. Here we are. Disneyland over here. Mino. Nothing. Looks like he's not here anymore. It looks peaceful around here. I doubt he fell into the lake or anything. Hey, don't stay stuff like that. Let's start asking around. This might take some time. Hey, if it isn't Estelle. Best Estelle to you, Grant. Hi, Grant. Are you on a job too? Yeah, I just finished a task Kurt handed off to me. I heard you guys took on a job too. With Zin by your side, you can't go wrong. Oh, I'm just here to lend a hand. Maybe you might be able to help us out, Grant. They explain the search for the missing child. Oh, that's a serious situation. I'm afraid I haven't seen any children who match that description. Is that so? Looks like the search isn't going to be so easy. Perhaps it is time for my lute to shine. If I play music while walking around the city, I'm sure the enchanting melody will draw him out. What do you think kids are? You'd probably just get reported as a kidnapper. You know, running into you here feels like fate somehow. How about letting me help out with the search? Wait, really? Sure, I just finished up my own work too. It's not like you can ever have too many people searching, right? Honestly, that would be a big help. You probably know the area better than we do. Sounds like a great plan to me. Alright, sounds like a plan then. Welcome to the team, Grant. I'll do my best not to let you all down. Well, let's get started. How about splitting up and searching around the east block first? What about the west block? That area is a quiet residential district, not much there to attract a kid. On the other hand, the east block is a department store, the arena, and the airship landing port. If he hasn't been missing for long, I'd say there's a good chance he's there. Yeah, those places definitely sound like they'd catch a child's attention. You seem pretty used to this kind of thing. I've handled similar requests a few times before. I just have a good intuition, that's all. Ah, that's a senior bracer for you. Still, kids can be unpredictable. You better start searching right away. I'll go ahead and keep an eye on people coming and going. See you later. And there he goes. He's quite the energetic guy. He was charging ahead during the match too. Indeed, he gave the impression of a kind brother figure. You two are blessed with great role models, You betcha. You're not the one who should be bragging, Estelle. Anyway, let's head over to the east block. Right. Everything's marked. God. Marked it to a dead end. The only dead end around, Grant. Hey, you're here. Let's split up and search for the lost kid. The golden rule for finding lost kids is to call their name loud and clear. Okay, got it. Let's look around carefully. Give this some Mino. Mino? El Nino? Oh shit. Might be inside. Oh, there's the parrots. Let's ask Anton. I've been feeling pretty motivated since yesterday. I think I'm going to look for a job. Well done, Anton. Yawn. Weather sure is nice today. No sign of a little boy walking around though. What about inside the department store?
Hey, Mino! I don't hear a response.
Let's look around somewhere else.
I think I could buy the fucking paper here.
Time for some shopping.
I simply
Yes.
cannot decide.
I made up my mind.
So this paper will give a nice
Thank you.
rundown. And recent reports. Recent reports. Shock in the capital. Royal Guard plots rebellion. Royal Guard members arrested. According to a late-night announcement by the Intelligence Division, the Royal Army's Royal Guard was plotting a rebellion from inside the capital. The shocking incident was thwarted when Special Ops forces from the Intelligence Division intervened to uncover and suppress the plot. In response, Army Operations HQ has ordered the immediate dissolution of the Royal Guard. Former Lieutenant Julius Schwartz and several senior officials of the Royal Guard are at large, prompting a nationwide manhunt. Further investigations by the Intelligence Division have linked the recent Central Factory attack to the Royal Guard, orchestrated at the direction of Lieutenant Schwartz. This revelation caused the order to the immediate suspension and detainment of Royal Guard leadership. Every Royal Villa sealed. The Intelligence Division has established a base of operations at Irby Royal Villa amidst fears of potential attacks from rebel forces. As a result, entry to the villa and the surrounding areas is prohibited until further notice. Why would an elite unit rebel? Suspicions deepen. The sudden accusations against the Royal Guard following the alleged rebellion plot in the Central Factory incident have left the citizens of the capital gravely shaken. How can a unit so trusted by Your Majesty be capable of such treachery? The time has come for the Intelligence Division to clarify the motives and circumstances behind these events to restore public confidence. Man, I'm fucking talking so fast. They won? Dude, see? Just a little bit of hope. The bears. Throw your fucking there, hold on a second. Just give him the easy dance, you know? Give him some of these. There you go. And a couple of these as well. Well, congratulations on the hard-earned win with unnecessary tension. The Packers have been sent packing. Officially. So that's good. I have no dog in this fight, but if Salamandres is happy, then I'm happy. The time is coming to oh, I already heard that. Society, Her Majesty Unwell birthday festival potentially postponed. Sources close to the royal family report that Her Majesty Queen Alicia has been unwell for several days and is currently resting at the royal keep. Princess Claudia is said to be at her side, closely attending to her. Duke Dunin will temporarily serve as the Queen's proxy. If Her Majesty's health fails to improve, the upcoming birthday festival may be postponed. With the recent turmoil and rest in the royal capital, is news that yet another heavy burden to the kingdom and its citizens. We sincerely pray for Her Majesty's swift recovery. Society. Royal Tournament preliminary rounds begin. The annual Royal Tournament, hosted by Duke Dunin in Her Majesty's absence, because its preliminary rounds is scheduled, despite the prevailing gloom. In the capital, at the Duke's strong insistence, the tournament format has been changed to a 4-on-4 team battle. Competitors scramble to quickly assemble teams, but notably a participant of the Republic is allowed to compete alone. The solitary martial arts skill being enough to propel them through the challenging preliminary rounds. Okay, so no new news. I found that a little bit late.
Hey, how you doing?
Cardiac Bears strike again in the playoffs. Come back from a 21-3 deficit.
I can't decide.
Holy hell.
So, what'll it be?
Dark green hair. What that? I don't want any of this crap. At least they're actually really strong. I don't need them now, though.
Come again.
Easy they played it. Too easy. Made a lot of money running on themselves. Oh, they might blue when she talked to okay. Gotta get the people to show. See, there's no stakes. It's not interesting, you know? This area is huge. Okay, since it suddenly shows the landing port, I'm assuming the landing port is where to check. Also, I haven't been here yet. And there's an item here. What's this? New material. We had it all along. I was only pretending to be a bumbling idiot. Maybe this isn't the right place to go. And talking to these people doesn't progress, so... There's a chance he's down in that little corner down there. As it is in the circle. Where's this damn kid? Not here. Not in any of the hiding spots. Can I go in here? Nope. How about over here? Huh? Nope. I don't want to go in the arena. That's where the story continues. Where's this damn kid? Hey, you little bastard. Orbital Clock Model Number 2. Manufactured by Zeiss Engineering Factory, Septine Calendar 1163. Oh, is this it? This little kid here? Nemo. Not Mino, this one's Nemo. Stupid kid fooling me like that.
We have delicious ice cream.
Time
Ice
for
cream.
some shopping.
Special
I
ice
simply
cream.
cannot decide.
Shit. I want some of that.
Perfect. Please come again.
Where is this kid? History Museum. Reception. Nope. And here's somewhere. Santos. Ah, there's some lore in these museums. So, engraved stone pillar. Preceptian calendar. An elegantly carved stone pillar recovered from ancient ruins. It was retrieved for study from a naturally collapsed section of the Jade Tower in the Roman region. The patterns resemble those found on walls, although with slight variations. Another beautifully carved stone pillar was recovered from the bottom of Valeria Lake, featuring similar patterns to those on those tetracyclic tower walls. Crying out, what a game. Feels like we won a Super Bowl. We got divisional championship at home next week. Community Eagles, baby, let's go. Let's go! Tiled floor, precepting calendar, a decorative tiled floor inside ancient ruins. Skillfully arranged fragments of natural stone form. Simple yet beautiful patterns. Simple yet beautiful. Winning games over the Packers. Ancient light, precepting calendar. Like I said, Salamanians, if you're happy about this win, then I'm happy. I have no dog in this fight. But I'm glad that this win means much to you and to all other Bears fans. Container used for lighting bonfires, often discovered in buildings associated with rituals such as towers. It's not only used for practical lighting purpose, but also held religious significance. Outer wall of the tetracyclic tower, precepting calendar. This simple style was constructed in tetracyclic tower, constructed shortly after the Great Collapse for research purposes. The patterns depict our characteristics of architecture from that period, believed to represent either priests holding staffs or gods spreading their wings. Research continues into its possible connection to the goddess of the sky, a central deity worshipped since the founding of the Septian Church. It wasn't possible to see these in the original, like the actual inscription on them, but I feel like I've seen that symbol elsewhere. Precepting calendar, ancient Zemurian civilization. Approximately 1,200 years ago, the Zemurian civilization, then at its peak, suddenly collapsed, plunging the world into a prolonged dark age. The artifacts displayed on the first floor are believed to have been crafted immediately after the Great Collapse. Though not direct relics of ancient Zemuria, they strongly reflect its influence and possess significant academic value. There's anything upstairs. Accepting calendar year 1 to 500. Okay, let's stick with the lower ones first, because this is collapse stuff. Okay. Ah, Professor Alba. Oh, so these are the artifacts in the collection storage. What kind of treasures might we uncover, I wonder? I'm just bubbling with excitement. Okay, nothing else done here, but I can go upstairs. Accepting calendar year 1 to 500. The arrival of the Dark Ages. Following the loss of civilization due to the Great Collapse, the world descended into a prolonged period of chaos, and this warfare between various nations and factions persisted for about 500 years, a period historians later termed the Dark Ages. Knight's equipment, era around year 500 of Septian calendar. In an era dominated by warfare, warrior groups gained considerable social influence, eventually evolving to a privileged knightly class. They fought wars equipped with weapons and armor, like those displayed here, acquiring treasures and territories, further expanding their power. Crossbow, halberds, axes, staves, shields, some plate mail. Oh, I can't read that, okay. Nothing down here. Septian calendar year 1150 to 1200. The world after the Orbital Revolution. Only 50 years after Professor C. Epstein, a name that has not aged very well, invented ordnance, the world rapidly advanced. developing new applications of orbital technology. Airships symbolizes progress. In the Liberal Kingdom, regular airliner services have become commonplace transportation for citizens, and recently, other nations such as the Erebonian Empire have begun serious airship production, even developing practical airship-class vessels. You can see images of the... Is it the Bobcat? Images of all the airships in the game. There's the Arcee. Bobcat, the Spec Ops ship, and the regular airliner ships. Septian calendar year 500 to 1100. Stability under the Septian Church. The Septian Church emerged prominently around year 500 of the Septian calendar, marking the end of the Dark Ages. Its doctrines, centered around the goddess of the sky, swiftly spread through social welfare activities aimed at public salvation. Eventually, its authority grew to a level nobles and knights could not ignore, leading to a new social order centered around the church.
There we go.
Artifacts are said to have a deep connection with the ancient Sumerian civilization. Honestly, I'd jump at the chance to handle artifacts like that as part of our academic research. That said, every time I reach out to the Septian Church, they shoot me down. Some ancient Sumerian stuff. Clock. Septian Church vestments. Era around year 900 of the Septian calendar. The Septian Church has produced numerous religious artworks since its period of stability. The current depiction of the goddess of the sky is believed to have been established around this time. Many ritual implements still in use today were also standardized during this era. What else do we have here? Medieval spinning machine, around 900 of the Septian calendar. A manual machine used for spinning thread. As the medieval period stabilized, farmers' lives improved, and cultivation of cash crops such as cotton flourished. Handicrafts became widespread during this era as a means of earning income. Some more background stuff. The Septian Church stuff is probably the most interesting part of all this. Copy of the Sacred Tome. Around year 500 of the Septian calendar. A manuscript copy of the scriptures used by the early Septian Church at the end of the Dark Ages. As printing technology did not exist in the medieval period, this manuscript was hand-copied onto parchment made from treated animal hides. Here... I think here, this looks like just areas around. It's up these stairs, though. Oh, just a work office, okay. Right. The Septian Church is very prominent in this series. It was briefly mentioned earlier that they actually have a state, the Holy State. You can think of it as like the Vatican, essentially. So this is also in the circle. Nothing. Is there someone in the church, the museum? Where is this damn little boy? Or is he out here? No, I already went that way. I think maybe if I talk to someone. Everything you see here is dragged up from the depths of the Valeria Lake. Some lucky fisherman just happened to scoop them up in his net. This had led to speculation that there may in fact be great ruins lying at the bottom of Valeria Lake. I don't know if there's a map of this game. I feel like there would be one somewhere. I suppose not. Essentially, the Kingdom of Liberal is a giant circle, and in the middle of all the towns is a massive lake. I must be missing something. Where is this kid? Children. No. 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 Okay, so he's not here. I've swept the entirety of this museum, so where the hell is he? And I can't go in here. I'm about to look it up, I'm being honest. Where is this damn kid? You know, you little bastard. What? Also about to just go do the sewer mission. Unless he's over here. It's possible he's inside the arena. What that will mean is I should go do the sewer. The arena is in this circle. So we'll head over there. We're gonna do the sewer right away. Which is a shame because I was hoping to do this mission and then get the Grail locket. We'll just have to make do. Use sewer key A.
So,
Dungeon time.
This is the sewer. It certainly has a distinct atmosphere.
I can sense some fierce monsters nearby. Good.
Oh boy.
Training, huh?
Okay.
Not sure how deep this goes, but let's push as
I
far
know
as
these
we
things. This dungeon can be kind of enormous.
Treasure found.
Should we spare ribs? How many-
That defense ain't messing around.
I'll be your opponent.
Yeah. Time to get serious.
XP check.
Prepare yourself.
Hold up.
Let's go. Get crushed.
So many zero casts. Just notices Mercer is back. Come on, it's been taking years off my life. Nah, man. Go off. Yes, Matt Mercer has returned to the party.
That went better than I thought.
Oh, these guys are getting
Not
terrible
bad,
XP.
Estelle.
Okay. Well, this is a massive group. I can just run past these guys now. Get my way, ball. What is in here? Now, I think this is where they start introducing levers, but I don't remember. We'll save just in these items.
Treasure discovered.
What's this? Ah, hey, perfect.
Honest?
Is chapter weapons. Ah, speed up and evade. Or crit, sorry. Very nice, very nice. As we can go so far, it's going alright.
I'm surprised the Ravens didn't touch the
I
treasure
was
at
busier
all.
yesterday than I thought I would be. I was out late last night.
Thoughtful and leaving
Luckily,
it
I'm
all
feeling
for
okay
us.
today.
They sure are a fun bunch.
At age, that old up is starting to hit me, man. Going out late and then coming home, being in the morning, waking up a little bit sore, like, ugh. Getting old sucks.
Monsters could be trouble.
I'm starting to attain that, as they say, UNC status, man. Celebratory old man, thank you very much. Okay, this is where the boss is. That is a lot of enemies. Okay. Sin is set. We have his weapon. I don't remember if Mercer gets a weapon in this dungeon. I should be able to just kill these. I hope. I hope. Please save here. And I hope I can just limit break these things to death. Maybe get some XP. Maybe level up a bit. A group of ferocious monsters roaming around. The moles. The moles must die.
There's a strong one.
This'll be good training.
How's this?
I'll back you up.
Time to
Ral up.
strike.
Here we go. I'll finish you all
Taunt.
off right here. What's wrong? You scared?
Nice. See how well it does.
Payback time.
I'll show no mercy.
Okie dokie. So let's see how much damage Joshua does.
I'll support you. This is the end.
Bite.
Stun.
Well, that fight was a joke, wasn't it? With age comes experience. With experience comes a whole lot of ass whooping. Check that out. Okay, he's weak to air.
Spirit unleashed.
Extend. This is what makes him fucking very strong.
Now I'm mad.
That's a lot of damage. He's also weak to water. Okay.
Here we go.
Wind.
Joshua made back all his fucking limit break gauge. Winning everything. What I am glad is I can just relax. And I know this, but streaming is kind of like a settle down thing for me. To chill out. Play some fucking video games.
Now it's my turn.
Get to chat. Chat with chat.
Perfect move.
Just try and flicker him down.
Gotcha.
Flex seal. That's a lot of damage.
Wind.
That's a lot of damage. I always wonder how good that shit actually is. Because you know he's a scam.
Yes. To me.
Him and all those other guys. Vincent Shamwow,
Do this.
Billy Mays. Rest in peace, Billy Mays.
I'll buff you.
Its ass is exactly what I expected it to be.
For your trouble. The climax
I
rises.
suppose if it was good, it'd be everywhere, wouldn't it? Nah, you fucking
Now it's my
outraged.
turn.
You're fine though. I'm just gonna taunt.
Come on, over here.
Mole climb. Ooh, Zed.
All right.
You're good, buddy. Need a little top up there.
You can do it.
I'll buff you. Thanks.
Damn, you almost
Wind.
killed him again. It's fucking bold. There's a reason when a miracle product isn't used by the military. Oh, that's very true. Yeah, consider that. Oh, okay. No, Mr. Wolf. There goes Zed. Nice. The res.
I'll show no mercy.
Let's end this motherfucker.
This is the end.
Farewell.
Here, Olivier.
Okay, I can actually heal here.
A token of my love. Kindly accept it. Thanks. That was close.
Uh-oh. Oh, there goes it again.
I'm on fire. I'll show you the essence of beauty.
This guy is a fucking monster.
Here.
Kill him at Mercy.
Taste this.
All right.
I want to sit up. I don't know if this is one of those games where if they're not actually awake, they like if they're dead, they don't get any XP. So I hope it's not the case. Just in case.
That was close.
There's a little top up. Now kill.
Time to end this. And you're done. That went better than I thought.
Not bad, Estelle.
Woo! All done.
Nice.
Very good.
Okay, Zen, let's give you some num-nums. I think that just heals. So I don't want to lose, won't lose any debuff stuff. I guess not. Okay. There we go.
Seems like this is the end of the road.
I expected this place to be a little bigger.
Well, at least it was great training. Let's head back when we're ready.
Excuse me, moles. Hey, I missed any roads, did I? I did. I missed 2. Alright. Ah, I see. Okay. Trick wall. Classic. Classic. Another one. It is.
Treasure discovered.
New materials. Very nice. One more door. One more door in Mordor.
Found treasure.
There's a lot of Mordor in Mordor. Behind more doors. Stairs. Oh boy. Okay.
Treasure discovered.
Not a trap chest, reflector. Ah, perfect on Estelle. Okay, so no Olivier weapons in here. That's fine though. I didn't miss anything, so this dungeon is complete.
There's a lot of them. Be careful.
There's a lot of them. That's why we're getting the fuck out of here. Wrong way? Wrong way. Out, out. Out, out, out. Videos.
That's the stuff.
And we're set. So what I'm gonna do is I want this grail locket real bad. And this in.
I see. Is that right?
Yes! Perfect.
Oh, you ranked up.
Rank 2.
Congratulations.
Grail locket. Resist status ailments 100%. This is one of the most strongest items in any of the games.
Great job.
Once you have a grail locket, you're pretty much set for one character. You put them on your most important character. In games where I have a tank, I like to put it on them, but putting them on a support mage is also very much warranted, especially in later games. What I would like to do... replace Estelle. This. The other's going to go on... Zin here for more HP. Alright.
Let's see.
So we're just missing this kid. I've already searched high and low for this little bastard and I don't know where he is. It's not this one.
We have delicious ice cream.
Grant. I checked most of the main buildings already, but no one seems to have seen him. Maybe he wandered off somewhere a bit farther away. Where? I checked the landing port earlier, he wasn't there. Unless I missed a corner. Unless I am a fool. Can I actually go in? Oh, okay. How did I miss this? I must have came here too early. You know. Wait, isn't that... What are they doing over there? Aw, man, what are you doing, Rocco? Hey, it's not my fault, is it? Nah, that kid definitely got scared after seeing you. All he did was ask him what he was doing out here alone. Yeah, but you were glaring at him. Poor kid. Ugh. Hey there, guys. Oh, it's just you bracers. You seem awfully relaxed as someone with a match this afternoon. Did you use the key I gave you? Yeah, we've been putting it to good use. Never mind that. What were you just saying? Did I hear that you saw a little boy? Huh? How'd you know? There was a kid around 5 or 6 walking around here alone not long ago. We tried talking to him, but for some reason he ran off. Not for some reason. It's because of that scary look he gave him. You promised after what happened in Ruin that you'd stop scaring kids. I told you, stop blaming me. Maybe that child is the boy we're looking for. Looks like we found a clue. You did well reaching out and trying to talk to him. Yeah, and it would have been better still if you hadn't scared him away. I didn't scare him. Why do people keep saying that? Did he say anything before he ran off? Like where he might be going next? I don't think so. He's just a little kid. Wait, he did mention something about coming to see the fishes. And when he ran off, he said something about going to see the big fish. Fishes, huh? Maybe that's why he disappeared in the first place. You might have seen him splashing around in the water near the plaza in front of the castle. And as for the big fish, I think we might know where he was headed. Alright, Estelle, you guys go on ahead. I'll meet you guys after I've taken another look around, just to make sure we didn't miss anything. Got it. Thanks for the help. Looks like we owe you one. Don't get the wrong idea. I wasn't helping you or anything. Just remember your promise from yesterday. Oh, you mean when you cheered us on to win? Relax, we got it in the bag. If you lose, you're not getting off easy. Just hurry up and go. They've turned over a new leaf. Character development for the Ravens. Okay, that's just fast travel. Okay. Fishermen's. We went to see fishies. Excuse me. Nobody's here. The big fish. I thought for sure this was the place. I think you're right. This must be it. With a sign like that, no kid's gonna forget this place anytime soon. Ah, visitors. Oh, yes. Oh, hi. We're from the guild. Perfect timing. I just called for you. Come on up, would you? It's the boy. Mido. Oh, he's fast asleep. I think we found our missing child. He must have snuck in while I was sorting gear out back. I wasn't sure what to do. So, does this mean our job is done? Yeah, he doesn't seem hurt or anything, so let's get him back to where he belongs. What? Where am I? Where'd my mom and dad go? Hey there, sleepyhead. Good morning, Mino. Who are you? I'm with the Bracer Guild. I came to take you home. Bracer? Looks like you're still half asleep. Perhaps it's my turn to step in. Allow me to break out into my special routine for moments like this. Behold, my legendary loincloth dance. What? I guess that'd do it, if we want to traumatize him too. Don't you dare show a child something that'll give him nightmares. Huh? Zin. You're scary. Oh, he's gonna fucking cry. Probably should have stayed out of the spotlight. Don't worry, Mino. I know it's scary with so many unfamiliar faces. You'll see your mommy and daddy soon, okay? Wah! I want my mom and dad! Wah! See? Even this big old bear is actually super sweet, see? That's right, I'm one of the nice bears. Wah! 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 I didn't mean to scare him. Don't take it to heart. Kids get spooked easy. Hey, it's quite lively in here. Mr. Grant. Grant, just in time. Hey, you must be Mino. Glad to see you're all right. I heard you went on an adventure all by yourself in the capital. Yeah. A fishy jumped out of the water, so I chased after it. Oh, did you catch it? No, there were some scary people. But I didn't cry then. That's so. Tough little guy, huh? Your mom and dad will be here soon. You can tell them all about it. Are they gonna be mad I got lost? Nah, no way. They'll just be happy you're safe. You sure? Cross my heart, so chin up, alright? Okay. Oh, way to go, Grant. You nailed it. It didn't take you long to win him over. Can't compete with that. Yeah, impressive for sure. Afterward, Mito's parents arrived and were reunited with their son. They thanked everyone and returned to their sightseeing, to lose him again, all over again. Case closed. Nice work, everyone. Nice work to you too. You're the one who stole the show in the end. Still, I feel like I learned something today. Being a bracer isn't just about physical strength. True, for a bracer I think that strength comes in many forms. We learned a lot from you today, Grant. Oh, stop it. I didn't do anything special. Compared to Cassie's or Zin, I still got a long way to go. No way. You really came to the rescue. Maybe I should be more aware of how intimidating I can be. Worry not, Zin. I believe there are children in this world who can appreciate the beauty of your large, bear-like form. For sure. There's supply and demand for everything. What are you guys even talking about? Well, as your senior, I'm glad I was able to teach you something useful today. Alright, I've headed to the guild now. Don't forget to report back, okay? Got it. Thanks again for everything today. Definitely report that. And then...
Alright, quest completed.
I'm assuming that's the end of the side missions. For now, anyway.
Well done.
I see. Is that right?
Great job.
Well, at least do this. Very least. No more missions. Nothing. Nothing. I forgot to check the board, but there's probably nothing.
Let's see.
Alright. Good. Good to go, and that's rail locket's gonna come in. It's gonna be very, very handy. One of the main reasons to do the side content in this game is to get those items. If you just went through the story, you wouldn't have the items, and the later fights are gonna be really difficult without them. Sure. Oh, Mr. Zin, welcome to the Grand Arena. Once you enter, we ask that you remain inside the arena until the match is over. Are you ready to proceed? Yes. Understood. Please use the waiting room for the Azure team. It'll be on the right once you enter the hall. Best of luck in the match.
I'm getting excited.
Oh, I thought there was a cutscene. I'm gonna actually check this side.
Oh, Estelle and Joshua!
Dorothy! Oh, hey, Dorothy! It's been a while. Well, I suppose it actually hasn't been that long. We saw you in Zeiss.
It's true! I never thought I'd get to see you alive again! I mean, after you guys boarded that ship and went to that dangerous place.
Dangerous place? Oh my, things are getting interesting. Dorothy, let's take that story for another time, okay?
Huh? Come to think of it, I feel like I've seen those two somewhere before.
We had the pleasure of meeting once in the fair city of Bose. What a joy it is to see such a unique and charming young lady again. We crossed paths near the hot spring once, didn't we?
Oh, I remember now. You were the wine thief and the bear in Eastern clothes.
Wine thief.
Estelle, are you fighting alongside these two in the tournament?
Yes, that's right. We asked Sin if we could join his team and we started participating yesterday. Are you here for an article, Dorothy?
Yepers! I was working on a different story until yesterday, though. This morning, I ran into Niall, and he told me you were in the Royal Tournament. He was right. Your team looks really strong. I figured this would be the perfect chance to take some good pictures.
Looking forward to that. By the way, Niall isn't here today.
Nope. He said he's got some important research to do. He stayed up all night last night looking through papers. And today, he's meeting up with an old friend to talk about something.
I see.
Oh, right. Niall has a message for you guys. He wants you to stop by the office this evening. Whatever he wants to tell you, it seems really important.
Got it. We'll stop by after the match. What a serious sounding conversation. Now you've really piqued my curiosity. Meow, I say. Meow. Knock it off. Curiosity killed the cat, Olivier. How cruel, Estelle. And after all the fiery passion we exchanged in the arena yesterday. And now you toss me carelessly to the wind like nothing but a piece of trash. Quit saying it like that, please.
Oh, Estelle, when did you become such an adult?
And you shouldn't take everything so seriously.
Well, I guess I'll go secure my spot in the audience section for photos. I'll be cheering you guys on, so do your best.
How should I put this? She's a very interesting young lady. Ugh. Whenever Olivier and Dorothy are together, I feel twice as exhausted. Consider it a good thing. Now all your pre-match jitters are gone. From what I hear, Dorothy is quite skilled as a photographer. Apparently, most of the recent photos in Liberal News were taken by her. Wow, that's impressive. In that case, we better put on a good show for the camera. Yeah, you're right. No matter who we're up against, we gotta give it our all. Okay, sorry. I'm curious, can you actually go to the enemy side?
This here's gonna be a fun one.
No, you can't, okay. I'm ready. If we save here. Duke Doonin. The tournament saga continues.
They're late. The match is about to start, but the other team still isn't here.
That sure is weird. They must have a reason for being late. Or perhaps...
Go on. Move it already.
Damn it, quit yelling! Stop rushing us!
How did we end up in this mess?
Oh, come on, get it together! What if we're up against them? We'll never win if you're like this.
The Capuas.
Ah.
We're on our side this time.
You're...
So you're the other team?
No wonder you're running late.
So we're not facing you today.
Well, lucky you. I was looking forward to teaching the little airhead a lesson.
What?
Hey, cut the chatter. Have you forgotten already? You're only here thanks to the Duke's mercy.
Now, soldier. No need to get so worked up. We've been on our best behavior since we got here, haven't we?
Let's hope you keep it that way until you're back in your cell. We'd appreciate it if you avoided interacting with these guys. We don't need any more trouble.
Well, it's not like we're the ones planning to cause trouble.
Just so you know, an entire platoon is stationed outside the arena. Don't even think about trying to escape.
Yeah, we get it. We're not...
Oh,
Why don't you
sorry.
just hurry up and leave already? You're such an eyesore.
Why, you little...
Don't let her get to you. And you lot, don't even think about trying anything stupid.
Hey, what's really going on here? Why are you guys participating in the Royal Tournament?
Did Duke Doonan tell you to enter?
Yeah, it was Duke What's-His-Name that came up with the idea for us to join. He said the more matches we win, the more he'll reduce our sentences.
That's unbelievable!
That's a pretty arbitrary decision for a country that claims to have the rule of law.
What a playful little Duke.
It's a rare opportunity. Figured we might as well try to score as many good points as possible before they ship us off to prison. Although, that's not the only reason.
What do you mean by that?
So annoying. Mind your own business, will ya? Even we've got our pride, you know?
If you didn't join the tournament just to fight us, are you here to fight the Special Ops soldiers?
How did you...
Yeah, that's exactly right. Those losers pretended to be on our side and set us up.
That's right. The Capwas met up with the Spec Ops division at the lake.
They used us as pawns, then tossed us aside, all to expand the intelligence division's power.
Raspberry.
Yeah, and we foolishly
raspberry.
fell for it. Hook, line, and sinker. Regardless, they did us dirty.
I see what you mean. Thinking about it that way, you guys really got the short end of the stick.
Ugh, don't look at me like that. I don't need your pity. If anything, you owe us, remember?
Huh? Oh, you? For what?
Don't you remember the other day? It'd be pretty bad if those soldiers found out you were at the fortress, huh?
Oh.
Ooh.
We kept our mouths shut because we hate those guys more than we hate you. Still, wouldn't hurt for you to show a little gratitude.
At least they're not snitches.
Ugh.
Yeah, thanks for keeping quiet about us.
My. Doesn't this sound like a juicy little story? Care to share the details with your favorite bard?
It's nothing. Forget it, okay?
Whoa there. Save that energy for the battle. Looks like it's about to start.
I really love the fact that Zin is the only guy in here that has no personal stakes in this tournament. He's just here to fight.
Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for waiting. We will now begin day 2 of the Royal Tournament's main event. Without further delay, we'll announce the lineup for the day's first match. In the Azure Corner, representing the Calvard Republic, Zin and his team. And in the Crimson Corner, representing the Gransel branch of the Bracer Guild, the team led by Kurt.
We're up, and our opponents are Karna and her team.
Tough opponents. We'll have to make sure we don't drag Zin down.
No need to be so cautious. Your abilities are nearly on par with senior bracers. Just focus on giving it your all.
Yeah.
We'll do our best.
Ha! Onward to the field of battle.
All said. All right, let's 1 second here. What do you do? I do not. Okay. I'll do recipes, but I think we should be okay to go. Just going over the stuff real fast. Yeah, we should be good to go. All right. Onward.
There you are, Estelle and Joshua.
Hey there, rookies.
Hey there, veterans.
We look forward to learning from you.
The immovable Zin. I've always wanted to challenge you. I'll test how skilled you are with my blade.
Ha! Fine by me. Don't expect me to hold back.
Ha! I would have preferred to face you in the finals. But I suppose meeting here is fate.
On one side, we have a team of senior bracers. On the other side, a mixed team with a martial artist, 2 junior bracers, and a musical genius. Only Adios knows which side will emerge victorious.
The 5th match of the Royal Tournament is about to begin.
Actually making great progress. I didn't expect to get this far
To your
tonight.
starting positions.
The lack of forced battles in the dungeons is speeding things along very well.
Ready, set. Begin.
Main match, round 5.
Time to finish things. All right, let's show our seniors how much we've grown.
Yeah.
This Cell's missing HP. That's terrible. Okay.
I'll get you all.
I wonder if they can actually be. Fuck up, because he's busted.
Let's go.
Another crit.
I'll
Wow.
get you all.
I wonder if they could be confused. Oh, they can. All right.
I'll finish you all off right here. Hold on.
Okay, I flubbed this a little bit because we have a lack of we have a severe lack of
Stay on your toes.
CP, but it's fine.
You're mine.
Oh damn!
Feng Shu technique, impervious steel.
It's my turn.
Fuck up EXC. Maybe I can start buffing everybody up.
Let's begin.
There.
Let's go.
Well, there we go. Get the loop started.
Follow my lead, Joshua.
'Cause these guys are going to be very, very annoying. Luckily, we have Chaos Brand.
Let us begin.
No confuse. No confuse.
Let's begin.
I'll handle the lot of you.
There.
No confuse.
I can take them all.
That's fine. Just keep debuffing them with spells for now while we build up our limit breaks.
Wow, Joshua, your techniques are versatile.
Barely even fought.
It's nothing compared to your skills, Kurt.
I wouldn't say that.
No confuse. Swing and miss. If I get the strength down, that'll be great. The Doom devours.
I'm on fire.
Here we go.
Still no taunt. We still have jelly beans. I do have jelly bellies. Nice.
Let's begin.
And the soap buff. Very nice.
I'll handle the lot of you.
I would like Analyst or Grant to be confused. I can get one of those off to be perfect. That is going to hurt a lot. Feel the resist. And just in time, an attack up buff. Hold on, all the stops for this way, because these guys are kind of fucking annoying.
Rejected, huh?
Oh, Grant is confused. Perfect.
Let us begin. Taishu technique. Crested waves.
Sit.
No confused, but speed down.
Let's begin.
Every turn that passes gives us some
I'll handle the
CP
lot
because
of
of morale boost.
With grace. The perfect move.
Okay, now Joshua can start doing this shit.
I'll support you. There. Here. Here we go. Give it to me. Let's do this.
He has a small HP. Imagine it's Analyst or Karna. Nice, Karna's confused. Very nice. $64, $69, $78, $73. Okay, yeah, so Analyst is the smallest HP.
I'll handle the lot of you.
I'll keep the Chaos Brand. Confuse.
Let's go.
Oh, and upkeep morale as well.
I'll support you.
Time to strike.
Now it's my
Nice.
turn. How's this?
Okay. Taunt. Get the Zen combo going.
What's wrong? You scared? You're up, Olivier.
He missed every single one, didn't he? Well. Luckily, we have an impede.
I won't miss.
Very nice.
Sorry. To think you'd make it this
This is
far.
gonna hurt, Sid.
I'll fight by the way of the sword. That's so cool.
Damn.
Then me too. I'll stake my pride on the staff techniques Dad taught me.
Oh my goodness,
We're
Sid.
gonna win.
Hey, good there, big guy. I got some spare ribs for you. What else do we have? Oh, a gorgeous crepe. Here you go. This will do you some good.
This is great.
Follow my lead, Joshua.
The perfect move.
Where's Kurt? Oh, there he is.
I'll get you all. Joshua. Slash. Have another. Round to go. Spirit unleashed.
Okay. Disten for sure for that defense up. Big defense up. I mean, he already has his self buff up.
I'll finish you all off right here.
Delayed back attack bonus. Heavy stun. I don't know if they can be stunned. I know they can be delayed, so this will work. Get all three. Maybe. Maybe. Inch, 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 inch. No, no, yes, no. Wait, wait. Hold, hold, hold. Nice.
Take this.
The Wu-Tang style.
You're mine.
Right back at you. I won't let you.
This'll knock you out.
Payback time.
You'll
Okay.
pay for that.
So Karna and Analysts are last. So
I can take them all.
where's Earth Guard? I'm gonna throw some support up. Earth Guard.
Spell.
Nice HP shooting. Excellent.
Back down. Payback time.
What a great opportunity to see Taito School martial arts up close.
Seems
Oh,
like your
Estelle.
spear techniques and mystic arts follow the Eastern style, too. Glad you're excited to see my moves.
More than excited. Now, let's keep this fight going.
I'm gonna go for the confuse. Come on, Joshua. Stagger, nice.
Let's do this! It's over!
Nice, nice.
Faster!
Team Sin pulling ahead, but there's still time for a comeback.
We need
folks.
Heelys. We need Heelys now.
That's right. We're not backing down.
I like that.
Help me, Matt Mercer.
Let's finish this.
Lifesaver.
Nice.
Now I'm mad. But speed it up.
All right. Okay, I'm gonna limit break with Joshua. I'm gonna try and kill Karna Endless Eye. I might even just kill Grant as well.
I'll get you all.
With the black thing.
This is the end.
Because I don't want them to enrage. Rage gives them a free turn.
Stun.
Ooh, will that do it?
There.
Part it down?
Faster.
Part it down.
Both improved
Nice.
so much.
All yours, Sin.
The fight is ours. Endless
How's
mother.
this?
Oh, we hit him with the Gallic gun, why don't we?
Energy grenades. There. Arrow blast.
Kaboom!
You're mine.
You're mine.
Grant down. Endless down.
Guess that's it for me.
Damn, that was incredible.
Okay, Grant is down. Alright, it's just Kart. We win. The flubber cast. Ah, he fucking enraged. That's fine. I don't think he can wipe us. He has a res? What is this nonsense? Okay. It's a little bit of a fucky wucky, isn't it? He's just gonna do that, huh?
It's my turn.
Not the end of the world. It's just a little fucking annoying is all. Let's clock up some things. Mix in.
There's nothing. Thanks.
Here we go.
Okay. Zin is up. This is perfect. And we're just gonna suck his Kurt resing Grant as well.
Take this. Pounding fist. Gotcha.
Full burst.
Finish them all. Of course. Let's do this.
Okay, it's time. Time to go all out. This should be it. We can win this. Kurt needs to go down. Didn't realize he had a res. Okay, that's it for him. Now we win.
Whoa. Nice teamwork.
You're up, Olivier.
I'll show you the essence of beauty. Reverberate! Howling bullet!
Sorry.
I'm feeling sharp. Let's wrap this up, Joshua.
Yes, let's hit him with the flicker. Phew, and that's that. That is a lot of XP. We finally hit level 40. Finally. Nice, nice. To finish this day epic game and call it there.
Team Zin wins.
Well done.
That fight's not the hardest, but it can easily get out of hand. So you're blindsided by Kurt's res.
The immovable Zen. I didn't expect you to be this skilled.
You guys are pretty tough opponents yourselves. If I had to fight alone, I wouldn't have stood a chance.
Did we win?
Yeah, we did. We managed not to drag Zin down.
No need to be so modest. Zin's skill is undeniable, but you two were quite formidable too.
Huh. I'd expect nothing less from Shara's apprentices. But I didn't think that guy over there would put on such a show.
And you, my lady, were absolutely electrifying. How about we celebrate our shared strength with some drinks after the tournament?
Knock it off already.
Already trying to pick up analysts. That's our Olivier.
Ho ho! Not too shabby.
I want to watch these guys eat shit to fucking lords.
Totally! You got me all fired up!
It wasn't a bad fight. I'll give you that.
Thanks. Wait, are you okay? That sounded like a compliment. Do you have a fever or something?
Like I'd ever compliment a softie like you. I just don't want the people who captured us to lose so easily, got it?
You're as mouthy as ever.
Now, Estelle. Thank you. Even after everything, you still cheered for us.
I wasn't cheering for you.
Now, for the 6th match. In the Azure Corner, the 4-member team from the Capua family Sky Pirates led by Dawn. And in the Crimson Corner, led by Lieutenant Lawrence, the Intelligence Division's Special Ops team.
All right! It's finally our turn.
Time to show those black-clad creeps what we're made of!
Guess this was meant to be. I'll be cheering for you guys, so give it everything you've got.
Be careful of their captain. Don't let him have free reign, and you'll have a shot.
Yeah. I mean, no. We don't need your help.
Yeah, I mean, no. Oh man, they got the Giga Chat Survivor.
Masked guy!
The SS rank.
I've been waiting for this. We've got a score to settle.
Ha! We owe that Duke a special thank you for this one.
What's so funny?
Born to the once noble Baron Capua of Erebonia, corrupt merchants stole your lands, forcing you into sky piracy. Such a pathetic tale.
You wretch!
How do you know about that?
Have you forgotten that we belong to the Intelligence Division? You'd be better off giving up on revenge and serving your sentence quietly. It seems you're not cut out to be proper villains after all.
What did you say?
My. You sure do like to flap your gums, don't you?
I'll turn you into target practice! The 6th match of the Royal Tournament is about to begin! Both teams to your starting positions! Ready?
There's no way. He's too cool. The rule of cool will triumph.
Time to show you what's up!
I'll make you pay for what you did to us.
Yeah, we'll show them the pride of the Capua family. There we go.
Oh man. This guy's all good. Yep. He's getting wrecked. And he's down. Okay. That one's almost dead. Go on, tanking. Ooh, I kind of chunked him. Chunked again, but not dead. Over Big Don. Some AoE damage. Pretty good. Oh, but Lawrence's turn is coming up. Another one.
This is the end.
That was your timer's ticking.
this is the end.
He almost one-shot Kyle. He's got another turn. The Zero Storm. Oh my goodness.
Seriously? We look like total
Kyle's down.
fools.
Lieutenant Lawrence is unstoppable. Will this be the end for Team Dawn?
This is the end! Meet your end!
Damn, he's just too
The set is down. It's just Dawn. There's no way. I'm sorry, Dawn. The survivors are just too cool, man. It's the helmets. It really is the helmets. Smashing sword. Oh, they fucking dunked him.
You gotta be kidding me.
And it's over! Team Lawrence wins!
You're just that cool, man. It's the helmets. I'm telling you.
Oh no, they lost.
They were doing all right for a while, but once that Lawrence guy really started going, their formation completely collapsed.
He's a tough one to figure out. He wasn't even giving his all. I still can't get a good read on him.
What? You think he was holding back?
Quite possibly.
Didn't even use all his power.
Even after using that final
Maybe
move,
10%.
his focus didn't waver. He still had energy left to spare.
That's unbelievable. You guys nearly had them.
Spare me your sympathy. We were beaten fair and square.
Damn. It's all my fault. My support wasn't good enough.
No, it wasn't your fault, Kyle. It's because I couldn't break through his assault.
Well, it can't be helped. They say that luck is half the battle. We'll avenge your loss tomorrow. You can count on us.
What?
Hey now! You make it sound so easy.
I don't think that's the kind of promise you can make with foes like that.
Yeah, but if you go in with the wrong mindset, you'll never win anything.
A bold claim with nothing but confidence to back it up. Classic Estelle.
Looks like it's finally over.
Back to
Get a
prison.
move on. Stop dawdling.
Poor guys.
Haul your asses to the harbor.
At least they didn't snitch.
Hey, hey! What is this? Some kind of joke?
We just finished our fight. Can't we at least catch our breath?
Stop whining, criminals.
Move it already.
I'm exhausted.
Hey, you guys.
Yeah?
We won't be able to come back here tomorrow. But you better win! If you lose to those jerks, I won't forgive you!
Of course! Just leave it to us!
We will. We'll win for sure.
Hey, you done talking?
Come on, don't waste our time.
Don't waste our time. 40,000 Mira. God damn. That's how you know you're at the end of the JRPG, because you just start getting shit tons of gold. Shit tons of dosh. Managed to win again today. And tomorrow's the finals. We should get some rest while we can. The real battle lies ahead. So, how about we grab some drinks? Now you're speaking my language. Allow me to join you. Wait, what happened to resting? We have a few other things to take care of, so we'll pass again tonight. Alright, see you later. Meet you at the front desk in the morning. Good night, my sweethearts. Alright then. Niall should be waiting for us. Let's head to the Liberal News Service. Right. I hope he's found something out about the members of the Intelligence Division. Here's a lore bomb now. We'll finish this night and then call it. See you next time. Probably Monday night I'll stream. there's anything I can hand in, but I'll just to be sure.
You don't have anything to report.
No, okay. Make sure there's nothing new either.
Let's see.
Oh, that's important. Okay. Good. We're good. Let's go meet up with Niall. This will probably end the night as well.
Phew, I'm starving. How about we get Niall to treat us to something?
Oh, okay.
No, I'd feel bad.
There. Liberal News Service. Right, where are you, Niall? Hey, Niall. We came as soon as we could. Well, it's about time you showed up. Looks like Dorothy actually managed to deliver a message for once. That reminds me, heard you guys won again today. Dorothy came back all bubbly and excited about it. We sure did. So Niall, about what we discussed before. Getting right down to business, huh? Here, I've gathered the profiles on all the major players. Is this from the Royal Army? Yep, it's not exactly classified, but it is technically restricted material. I had to pull a few strings with an army contact of mine, so keep this between us, yeah? Understood. Okay, let's go and take a look. Oh, I guess we'll just go top to bottom. About Colonel Richard. Colonel Alan Richard. Born in 1168 of the Septine calendar in the Rouen region of the Liberal Kingdom. He graduated top of his class and was assigned to the Independent Mobile Unit led by Colonel Cassius Bright, that is, Estelle and Joshua's father. During the 100-Day War of 1192, he distinguished himself in defensive operations as Cassius's subordinate. After Cassius retired, he was promoted to General Staff HQ, where he made significant contributions to organizational reform. In 1201, he received approval from Her Majesty Queen Alicia to establish the Intelligence Division. Whoa, the guy sounds like the real deal. The best of the best. Yeah, he certainly seems sharp. And just like Major Sid said, he was one of Dad's subordinates during the war. So Dad really was a colonel. If he was such a high rank, why'd he even quit? Captain Amaltheus, this is Richard's second in command. Captain Canoni. I think it's Canoni? I don't think it's Canny, I think it's Canoni. Amalthea. Born in 1175 of the Septine calendar in the royal capital of Liberal Kingdom, Gransil. After graduating with excellent marks in the military academy, she was assigned to General Staff HQ. In 1201, she was transferred to the Intelligence Division upon the recommendation of Colonel Richard. Since then, she has served as Colonel Richard's adjutant, assisting with operational command. Graduated with excellent grades, huh? Sounds like another elite. Looks like she's been working with Colonel Richard for quite some time. She must be very loyal to him. And finally, we have Lieutenant Lawrence, the man with the red visor, who whipped ass in the tournament. Oh, he's so cool. Second Lieutenant Lawrence Belgar. Age and nationality unknown. Formerly a member of the Jester Jaeger Corps, he was recruited into the Intelligence Division by Colonel Richard. His background prior to this is unknown. So that masked guy's not even from Liberal. And he's a former mercenary with no background. What's up with that? I don't know. What I do know is that the term Jaeger is reserved for only the highest ranking mercenary groups. Oh, I see. Maybe the Colonel recruited him for this combat experience. I suppose that's possible. The Jester Jaeger Corps. I feel like I've heard that name before. Close the file. Thanks, Niall. I feel like we're finally starting to understand the enemy. Glad I could help. While digging through stuff, I found a bit more information. What kind of information? Well, for example, you know Lieutenant Schwartz, the one currently wanted for treason? Turns out she and Captain Amalthea were classmates at the academy. What, really? Those two don't exactly strike me as friends. They weren't. They were rivals, constantly competing for the top spot in their class. Jaegers give me flashbacks to Attack on Titan. I thought the exact same thing when I first heard it a few years ago, starting this series. Amalthea excelled in academics, while Schwartz was a master in combat, a perfect contrast. Yeah, I can see that fitting with both of their personalities. The lieutenant's so dignified after all, like a knight should have a fairy tale book. This isn't directly related to the Royal Army, but have you heard of Princess Claudia? Princess Claudia? Name sounds familiar. She's the only surviving child of the Crown Prince and his wife, who both died in a shipwreck. She's also the granddaughter of Her Majesty the Queen. Yeah, she's not that well known, but she's as close as it gets to a direct heir to the throne. Allegedly, she lives in the royal keep at Gransel Castle. But someone's been shopping around for a husband for her. A husband, huh? I mean, I guess it's not that weird for wealthy families to arrange marriages. I don't know, still feels a bit unfair. Still, that's not the point. The real issue is who that person searching for the princess's husband is. Sharp as always. Wait, could it be? I suppose Colonel Richard? Could be one of these two, right? Duke Dunan? Duke Dunan's kind of an idiot. Go with Colonel Richard. Oh, you're a sharp one. It is Colonel Richard, okay. Colonel Richard is exactly the one dispatching people to other nations in search of good candidates. I knew it. But isn't that kind of weird? Why would Colonel Richard look for a marriage partner for the princess? That's why I'm telling you, it smells like something fishy's going on here. So anyway, I'm counting on you all for this. Huh? So you want us to win, get invited to the banquet at the castle, and gather all the information we can. That's what you mean, right? Oh, I get it. No wonder you've been so generous with all this information. After all I've dug up, it's only fair. You scratch my back, I scratch yours. Fair enough. You've been a big help. Alright. If we learn anything, we'll let you know. That's the spirit. But with a little luck, I might not even need your help. Ring, ring, telephone. Hold on. Yeah? Liberal News Service? Oh, it's you. I've been waiting for your call. What? Right now? Got it. I'll head straight there. What's going on? What happened? Just some minor business. Gotta meet up with a friend of mine. Must be important. It's already getting dark. I've always been more of a night owl. But after training that airheaded photographer, I somehow turned into a morning person. Anyway, that's beside the point. I've headed out. You guys can show yourselves out, I take it. Yeah, no problem. Good luck with your work. You guys better win tomorrow's match, you hear? Which we'll do next time. Oh, what should we do now? Let's stop by the guild first and head back to the hotel. We should file a report about what we learned from Nile. Roger that. Nice. PP increase. Guess we die.
It was the Royal Guards?
I imagine. I'm definitely at least 2 streams away from the end of this game. At least 2. Where am I going? Let me just fast travel. There we go. Estelle, Joshua, I heard you made it to the finals. Congratulations. It's a shame about Kurt's team, but I heard it was a great match. Yeah, it was crazy intense. You won, but I realized you still got a long ways to go compared to all the senior bracers here. Braces? That says braces, not bracers. Yeah, I felt the same way. Not to mention all the help we received from Zin and Olivier. We've still got a lot of catching up to do. That mindset will take you far, no doubt. By the way, have you learned anything new? Yes, so actually, Joshua reported the information Nile uncovered to Elden. Interesting. So Lieutenant Lawrence's ties to the Jaegers. The Jester Jaeger Corps. Can't say I've heard of them, but it might be worth digging a little deeper. Does the guild regularly interact with the Jaegers? Not exactly. If anything, we're more like rivals. The guild can involve itself in wars between nations, but for the Jaegers, that's their bread and butter. In remote regions plagued by conflict, we often find ourselves clashing over civilian protection. I can never like people like that. But doesn't that make it hard to get any information on them? Well, as the saying goes, it takes one to know one. It'll be a few days before I can get my hands on the info, so it won't be in time for the finals. Does that still work for you? Sure, this isn't just about the tournament after all. We're grateful for your help. Now then, about the rumor that Colonel Richard is searching for a husband for Princess Claudia. I happen to have a bit of information about that. What kind of information? Apparently, a member of the Erebonian Imperial family will be attending the Queen's birthday celebration. We don't have a name yet, but this will be the first time a member of the Imperial family has visited Liberal since the war. I would suggest it has something to do with the marriage arrangement. A member of the Erebonian Imperial family. I wonder what they're like. Forget royalty. I've never even met an Erebonian before. Well, except for Olivier. Incidentally, Princess Claudia only just turned 16. It seems rather strange to be rushing to marry her off. Wait, seriously? She's the same age as us? Typically, that's the age royalty makes her debut into high society. But still, getting married at that age these days is way too early. There must be a reason they're pushing for things to move so quickly. I think it's worth a deeper look. Alright, we're on it. If we make it into the castle, we'll sniff out whatever we can. But first, we need to win tomorrow. This could be a bit risky, but... Here, you'll want this. Metal Suriki B! The other side of the dungeon. What's this for? It's one of the keys we manage here at the Gransel branch. It'll unlock the sewer entrance. You'll find it next to the Grand Arena. But be warned, you're running into some pretty tough monsters down there. Now you're talking my language. I was hoping we could do some more training before the finals. Thank you, Ellen. All part of the job of a branch officer. That said, the two of you shouldn't go alone, okay? Got it. I'll check it out when we meet up with Zin and Olivier in the morning. Which will also hold off for tomorrow. We'll still see the morning, end of the night. But once we regather, that'll be it. It's so late already. We should probably head back to the hotel. Hey, you there. Is something wrong? We're soldiers on patrol. As part of our anti-terrorism efforts, we're strengthening night patrols from today onwards. With that in mind, we're asking everyone to refrain from going out at night. You two should head back home. Refrain from going out at night? That's a bit much, don't you think? Orders from above, I'm afraid. Sorry, but we must insist. Where are you two staying, anyway? We're staying at a hotel in the North Block. We booked a room there for the duration of the Royal Tournament. For the duration of the tournament, huh? Wait a second. I feel like I've seen you guys before. Aren't you those kids who made it into the finals? Why didn't you mention it? Oh, have you guys been watching the matches? Yeah, we were on duty. Today's match was something else. Tomorrow's the finals, right? I'll walk you back to your hotel. You guys need to get some rest. Thank you. We'll take you up on that offer. Thanks for walking us back. We really appreciate it. Don't worry about it. We're big fans of you guys. I know we're all part of the Royal Army, but I've never been too fond of those special ops guys. Hey, you can never tell what they're thinking. Well, I should have said that. It's disrespectful to Colonel Richard. Anyway, we're rooting for you guys. Good luck tomorrow. Thanks. We'll do our best. That's kind of tense. But those guys didn't seem to know anything about the Colonel's schemes. They're just regular soldiers, not part of the intelligence division. They probably just believe whatever their superiors tell them. And they're cheering for us. I really don't want to fight those guys. Yeah, we should do our best to avoid conflict with ordinary soldiers. Let's stay in tonight and get some rest. Okay. Oh, let's definitely get our...
Will you be resting here?
This is a cheap way to get limit break gauge back.
That's the stuff.
Or next time.
Take care. Will you be resting here?
Phew, that was a good break.
Go.
Take care.
Alrighty.
I hope you enjoy your stay.
Huh? Did you hear something just now?
Enter the room and assess the situation, but also be ready to fight.
Huh?
I think someone's in our room.
Uh-oh.
There could even be explosives inside, so stay sharp.
Ah, damn, explosive.
What? Are you serious?
Just trust me on this. Or you can stay here if you want.
No way! I'm ready. Let's barge in already.
Got it.
Oh.
Looks like they got away. But something's off. There's no trace of anyone having even been here. There aren't any traps either.
You can tell all that?
A letter.
Looks like this is the only thing they left behind.
A letter?
A letter. Joshua, open the letter.
Tonight at 10 p.m., come to the cathedral. Keep this strictly confidential.
That's all it says?
Well, I suppose we have a small extra thing to see.
The cathedral. That's the big church in the West Block, right? And it's already almost 10 p.m. This is super suspicious. But nothing ventured, nothing gained, right? What do you think, Joshua? Should we take the chance?
Absolutely not.
Damn.
Why are you yelling?
Sorry about that. Look, remember how the soldiers said they've increased night patrols? The West Block is pretty far from here, and we'd probably get stopped.
Oh, I totally forgot about that. But we can't just ignore this.
That's why I'll go alone.
What?
It'll be easier for me to move around alone than with both of us together. I should be able to avoid the patrols and make it to the cathedral. I can handle checking things out by myself. So please, just stay here and wait.
Hey.
Huh?
I'm a bracer too, you know. I can take care of myself, so there's no way I'd slow you down.
They have Catholicism as universe or bad translation, maybe. No, they have a church, the Septian Church. They're, I mentioned this briefly earlier. The Septian Church, this is mentioned in notes, as its own, state. And you can liken it to the Vatican. I would say that a lot of the Septian Church's, imagery comes straight out of the Vatican, so. It's like anime Catholicism, I guess. Say to put it.
Your excuses don't fool me.
Estelle, that's not what I meant.
I know. I know you trust me. And I know you're worried about me. But I get the feeling there's more to it than that.
And they worship a goddess of the sky. And the church has cathedrals and churches everywhere.
You know something, don't you?
Yeah, Josh, you're acting awful fucking sus, man.
How did you know? I thought I was careful.
Because I'm the leading expert of all things Joshua. So, I just kind of know.
It's time, huh?
Joshua, you're birding, buddy.
Huh?
Fine, I won't stop you. There's not much time left. Let's go to the cathedral.
Right.
But I need you to promise me something. If anything happens, you have to do exactly what I say, no questions. Even a second's hesitation could cost us our lives.
Right. I understand. Come on, let's hurry.
Fuck. I was gonna end there, but I guess not. I wanna see. Fine word, I guess, because cathedral's a Catholic church specifically. Oh, I didn't know that. I actually didn't know that. But yeah, I imagine they borrow much of their stuff from Catholicism, because you look at any of the priests and they got fucking nuns and shit, and guards. Stealth section. I hate stealth sections. Luckily, this shouldn't be too bad. It's like they're already patrolling. If they catch us, they'll probably take us back to the hotel and reset our progress. We'll need to avoid the patrols and make our way to the cathedral. Got it. Save there. I want to see. I want to see. Let's not get caught. So, we have to go. There's a sub-event down here. Okay. Let's, see if we can make it there. Speed boost.
Finally made it through. But we ended up even further from the west block.
But security's lighter here than on the main street. Let's try to find a way.
Aye, aye.
What's down here? Ralph. Who the fuck is Ralph? Ah, you found me. You see, I wanted to get a good seat for my wife for the finals tomorrow. I thought about staying up all night to wait in front of the arena, but the soldiers chased me away. So I went back to the arena again and ended up hiding here. Please, I'll give you this, so please don't tell the soldiers about me. Oh, is it the book? Ah, 110. I have to get front row seats tomorrow. You get your ringside seats, because it's whoop-ass season. For me, one's about to spank me in the arena. It's, careful here. Up here as well, that soldier's gonna turn. Oh god, okay. Shit, I think maybe I'm supposed to go the way first. These guys can only see so far ahead. I can probably cut across here. Oh, let's save. Nice, nice. Now we just need that guard over there to walk down the street. There were 2 guards, that's not good. Please don't turn this way. Nice. Oh, I almost walked in front of that one.
Seems like we'll need to cross to the other side.
Eyes peeled for an opening.
This is gonna be a tight squeeze, isn't it? Save. Because I don't want to do this whole thing over again. I hate stealth sections. Okay. Don't turn. Don't turn. Don't turn. Nice, nice. Okay.
Phew! Finally, the west block.
There we go.
We can see the cathedral, but don't let your guard down yet.
Just here. We need to get past these guys. There is a line of soldiers, huh? Let's go on in a big square? Yep, okay. I probably could have hid in the middle there, but fuck it. Okay. Cathedral. Interestingly, they have a holy grail as their emblem. Made it. Don't let your guard down, Estelle. I'll go in first, and then you follow. Right. BP increased by 5. Nice. I assume that's from not getting caught at all.
sorry, Estelle. Looks like I was wrong.
What?
Thank you for coming.
It's you.
It's the nun we saved earlier with Zin.
Wait a second. You're the sister we rescued.
Thank you for your help back there.
Sister Ellen.
I'm impressed you came all this way despite how vague my message was.
So that letter was from you, sister? Why was it so cryptic?
I finally understand. It was you all along.
What?
You're quite perceptive, Joshua. Now, if you'll excuse me, this outfit is quite stifling.
What?
Julia Schwartz.
I'm First Lieutenant Julia Schwartz, the commander of the Royal Guard Battalion. It's been a while, Estelle, Joshua. I had a feeling you would come.
It's good to see you again, Lieutenant Schwartz. I believe the last time we met was at the landing port in Rouen.
Yes, that's right. It wasn't that long ago, but it all feels like a distant memory now.
Wait a minute. Why are you dressed like that, Lieutenant Schwartz?
And this is the lady that arrested the mayor way back on the boat.
And why did you call us out to a place like this?
Let me answer each and every one of your questions. First, about this outfit. The Septian Church has long-standing ties to the royal family of Liberal. They've been of great help to us since Colonel Richard's schemes turned us into fugitives overnight.
I see.
As for your second question, the reason I called you here is simple. If you win tomorrow, you'll be invited to a banquet at the royal castle. When that happens, I need you to make contact with Her Majesty the Queen at Grancel Castle. I understand it's selfish of me to ask this of you, but as a fugitive, I have no way of getting into the castle myself. You're the only ones I can rely on now.
Wow, this is a huge coincidence.
We're participating in the royal tournament for the very same reason.
What?
Estelle and Joshua explain the incident at Lacen Fortress in the message from Professor Russell.
So
Who
that's
was also
what
on the run.
happened. Oh, Adios, thank you for your great mercy. In that case, I have only one request. Please offer your counsel to Her Majesty in her time of need.
Of course, that's the plan.
The Guild has a rule about staying out of government affairs, but we just can't turn a blind eye to this situation. We'll do everything we can to help.
Thank you. And here, take this with you.
Julia's letter of introduction.
What's this?
Cathedral's just fancy church. See, I always thought cathedral was like an architectural thing. I didn't know it had an actual root in Catholicism.
It's a letter of introduction addressed to Lady Hilda, the head maid of the castle. Her Majesty is likely being closely monitored by the Special Ops soldiers. But Lady Hilda, who is entrusted with the Queen's care, may be able to arrange a meeting for you.
Oh, so there's someone who can help us.
Okay, we'll find her and ask.
Thank you. This situation is truly pitiful. I failed to protect the one whom I swore to defend. I swore to save Her Majesty and crush the traitors, even at the cost of my own life. Yet here I am.
Catholic's the name for
powerless,
it. That makes sense, as
forced
you
to
pointed
rely
out.
on others. It is
Catholic
truly
cathedral.
disgraceful.
You shouldn't be so hard on yourself. Besides, I hate to say it, but we could lose tomorrow.
I'm certain you'll do just fine. That martial artist from Calvard seems quite skilled. And more importantly, you two are the children of Colonel Cassius.
What? You know my dad too, Lieutenant Schwartz?
He was the Royal Army's most brilliant strategist, and their finest swordsman, the Divine Blade. While he was still in the Army, he served as a combat instructor at the military academy. He taught me everything I know about the sword.
There's no way! My dad only uses a staff!
It seems he gave up the sword when he retired and became a bracer. His goal was not merely to destroy enemies, but to also protect the weak. At least, that's what I'd always heard about the path he chose.
Is that right? I had no idea the staff was so symbolic.
I think that spirit was definitely passed down to you. You should be proud.
Joshua.
You were trained by Colonel Cassius.
Oh. Game bugging out a little bit.
I have no doubt that you'll win the tournament.
Just you saying that makes me feel super confident.
We'll give it everything we got.
Excuse us. We're from the Capitol Guard. As part of our anti-terrorism efforts, we're conducting inspections of key facilities. Sorry for the late hour, but could we take a quick look inside?
Uh-oh. Thank you for your hard work. Give me just a moment, if you please. I'll unlock the door right away. There's a back exit in the altar room that leads outside. You two should leave through there.
Got it.
You be careful as well, Lieutenant Schwartz.
We didn't mean to come all the way here, did we? It doesn't look like there are that many soldiers around here, though.
Yeah, I don't sense anyone either. Maybe the night patrols are wrapping up. Let's rest here a bit before heading back to the hotel.
Okay. Ugh, there's so much happening. I feel like my brain is gonna explode.
I know what you mean. I never would have guessed that Lieutenant Schwartz was the one waiting for us at the cathedral.
Ah, that reminds me. You thought it was gonna be someone else, right? As in, someone you've met before?
That's...
Joshua.
Sorry, forget I said anything. That was against our rules, right?
Estelle.
I promised I wouldn't ask about your past until you were ready. I try not to overstep, but I keep forgetting.
Estelle, I think traveling together with you has made me stronger.
Ooh.
Huh?
Meeting all kinds of different people with different lives. The way people's thoughts and feelings resonate with one another. By experiencing all these things and making all these connections, I feel like I've reclaimed something I lost.
Joshua?
Kiss? But they're step-siblings.
Maybe it's just my imagination. Even still, I want to express my gratitude for allowing me to stay by your side. For this guy, for Dad. And most of all, for you, Estelle.
Joshua.
So, I promise.
Just don't get stuck, Joshua. Don't get stuck, step-bro. Everyone agrees. Everyone in the universe and in real life agrees that Joshua makes her a very pretty girl. So don't get stuck, Joshua. It's for your own good.
When this whole thing is over and Dad returns safely, I'll tell you about my past. All of it. Everything from before I met you.
He belongs to Matt. Sir. Oh no.
Really?
Yes. I swear it. Under this starry sky.
All right, I've made up my mind.
Estelle?
Somehow, I'm not scared anymore. Once everything is resolved, I have something to tell you too.
Ooh.
Huh? Oh. Is it what's been keeping you so preoccupied recently?
Yep, the very same.
Pegging. All right, spray him.
So,
Spray long overdue. No, I'm just kidding.
Ready? I'm ready whenever. Why not just tell me now?
Yeah. Why not just tell him now, Estelle? Tell your step-bro what's on your mind. Estelle?
No way! These things require proper timing, you know. Well, actually, the atmosphere here is pretty nice, but...
What?
Oh,
I
jeez.
don't understand. But since we can't afford to lose tomorrow's match,
Gonna set up some spray
we'll
traps.
settle everything afterward.
Right. We can't let those guys stand in the way of our mission.
Oh, we have some personal stakes now. Or Estelle and Joshua have some personal stakes now for each other. Sworn under a starry sky.
The power of this young lady is gonna blast those special ops soldiers away!
Blast them away?
Joshua actually laughing? Now that's scary.
You really are your father's daughter.
Hey! Rude!
Anime
How am
power.
I in any way like that old man?
Yeah, Joshua laughing is...
Well, maybe you're right. For some reason, I feel like we really can win tomorrow.
Tomorrow. It's gonna be more like 2 days, but tomorrow. Alright, let's meet up with the others. What a disaster yesterday was. Just when I was enjoying a magnificent buzz, these boorish soldiers started giving me a hard time. Yeah, it seems like they've increased their night patrols as part of their anti-terrorism efforts. Did you two run into any trouble? No, we turned in early last night with 0 problems. But more importantly, I managed to borrow something awesome from Elden. Can be fucked to record these lines. It's really weird. I want to say it was... Might have been Trails from Zero and Trails to Azure. Actually had like 90% of it was voice. The only thing that wasn't voiced was like random NPCs. But every single time there was a main character, it was voice. It's a little inconsistent, these games. Anytime there isn't voice lines here, it's because you charge by the fucking word, they can't afford it. Estelle explained the key that Elman lent them. Oh, that is helpful. That guy may be young, but he sure knows how to lend a hand. How about we head down there this morning? Apparently, the entrance is right next to the Grand Arena. One last little push to win our spot at the banquet, yes? Alrighty. Let's check side missions. Get those set up for next time. We shouldn't need to gear up anymore. I'd also like to see how much BP I've gotten.
Let's check it out.
Myriad monsters. You receive reports of dangerous monster groups appearing in various roads around the capital. So there's multiple boss fights, okay? Monster Block Sewers Monster. Danglebone has appeared in the Grand Sewers. Danglebone? A strange monster name. For some reason I can't accept it. I hope that doesn't
Here we go, Estelle.
Oh no, I got accepted. Okay. Hold on.
Let's see how you do.
I take it you've all checked the jobs on the bulletin board. Yeah, there are monsters appearing along the highways, right? It seems like it's happening in more than one spot as well. Precisely. Unusual creatures have been spotted, mostly near the scenic paths. Apparently, monsters that normally live further inland are now showing up near the highways. What on earth is causing this? I can only speculate, but perhaps it has something to do with the army stationing troops at the Irby Royal Villa. Yes, they've been holding regular drills, can't read, and military ships are constantly coming and going. Changes like these can certainly force monsters out of their usual habitats. Wait, what? Seriously? They're always causing trouble. Good grief, I'm starting to feel a bit sorry for the monsters. However, considering the safety of travelers on the highway, we can't simply leave them be. Right, we should handle this before they stick around for good. And would you look at that, it's precisely the time those monsters tend to appear. This is our chance to get rid of them for good. I apologize for asking this right before the Royal Tournament, but could you handle this? Yes. You got it. Kurt's probably swamped too, so we'll handle it. Between this and exploring the sewers should be good training ahead of the finals. Thank you very much. Well then. We received the map from Eldon, marked with the monsters' locations. Wow, looks like there are quite a few. So, we just need to defeat them all sometime this morning, right? Yes, please make it clear to the monsters that this isn't their territory. Our intel says they'll put up quite a fight. Make sure you're fully prepared. Understood. Leave the rest to us. Alright, time to kick off the mission.
Let's begin.
Another time.
You don't have anything to report.
5 out of 50. So that's 45 points. And then I get the Gladiator belt. Upon action, CV plus 15, 5 speed, strength and arts up by 20. This could be good on anybody. This is one of those end game items that goes on anybody, just like the Grill Locket. Though I think I know exactly who I want to put it on. It's Shira. Once Shira comes back, I think the game's gonna suddenly become very easy. If my hunch is correct, it really depends on how much her abilities cost. But she has that whip ability that gives haste to everybody, and what haste does is it pushes your party members' turns up in the turn order. Essentially, giving your party infinite turns. This is not new to the series. This combo has started in... Shit, I want to say Cold Steel is when you can start doing stuff like that. There's 3 bosses for next time. The dungeons and Anton. Go over their equipments. Sphere, comps, okay. Still got other equipments equipped. Cheater Lumina and Clear Obscure type beat. There's always like busted ass combos like that in these kinds of games. It's always where I hit the end too. But I'm pretty sure I can get like a cheese going on. It's gonna become less effective in the last final stretch, depending if monsters are resistant to delay. Delay is gonna help too. Delay will make sure it goes off without a hitch. It's the but getting the haste and Shira generating CP with Morale, as well as Speed X. Speed EX is also grants haste on self, which will be the other main part. So max on her speed, Speed X on herself to give her instant cast, and then hit the haste whip on everybody else. If someone else, Joshua, Estelle, Olivier, anybody else in the party has Speed EX, they will immediately haste Shira again. Shira will recast the haste whip when she has to, and that should give an infinite loop of turns. This is Pretty Woman Who Walks by here a lot. The only I didn't mean to talk to this kid. I don't know. Each I have in life is counting how many times I get to see her each day. All right, if I see her 3 times today, I'll be motivated to turn my life around 3 times. Always ends up broken. He's in a good game. Yeah, it's been very effective in this series, at least. Especially since delay has been nerfed. I'll just pretend to read a book while I wait for it to pass by. What I wanted to do is check and see if there's a new newspaper.
Hey, how you doing?
What do we need?
So, what'll it be? Come again?
Here, other store.
Welcome.
Are there any bargains?
I see.
If you want tea, mine is. Please take
Are there any bargains?
I simply
Only
cannot
to, okay,
decide.
so there's no more.
Thank you.
No more newspapers. Alrighty then. So that is what we're gonna call it for now. And I will be back on Monday. Monday to stream this some more. 42 hours. Going on 43 hours. Making good progress. Maybe subtract 5 hours, because I did leave this game open for a little bit. I think it was that night that my internet crapped out from my ISP. It just screwed me over. Alrighty. Gentlemen, Salamandius, Zarkzik, and anyone else who might be lurking. Thank you guys for coming to watch. And on Monday, I will stream again. See the end of the tournament saga. And maybe see the inside of Gransel Castle. So, as always, honors. Take care. And farewell. That was the wrong screen. There we go.